Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. And I did say we were streaming live on Twitter. I don't know if we're streaming live on Twitter or not, because Twitter picked the single worst day in the history of days to have a terrible day. Things like barely working here for the start of free agency. So maybe we're up on Twitter, but we're up on all the other things as well. Here on Stillman and Company. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
So happy free agency to you, Ian.
Same to you.
Happy free agency to everybody out there. And the Tennessee Titans have been active. This isn't something that I was totally expecting. It wasn't something I wasn't expecting. But everybody is probably tuned in right here at 2 o'clock because they want to hear me go off on how stupid the Titans are for not signing Sam Darnold to be their starting quarterback. Sam Darnold, as you heard in David Jane's update, has signed with the Seattle Seahawks. I believe it's $36 million-ish a year. So, again, the $40 million wasn't there for Sam Darnold. So you want to hear me yell and scream and go crazy and, oh, no. But that's actually not how I'm going to start today's show. Because, number one, the Titans did prepare us for this reality. They told anybody who would listen, whether it was PK, whether it was Buck, whether it was TD, whether it was Jeremy Fowler, they told everybody, hey, we're not going to sign Sam Darnold for a bunch of money. And I didn't like it. And I still don't like it. And I think that Seattle will be very happy. Although I don't know why you would trade away DK Metcalf if you wanted to have your quarterback be any good, but that's their business, not mine. But the Titans did make a major signing. And the major signing was Dan Moore Jr. Ian, I believe the number is $22 million a year at left tackle, $21 million a year at left tackle.
Yeah, I guess 484.
484.
So yeah,
that's 22 a year, I believe. 21 a year. 21 a year for Dan Moore Jr. And that's where I want to start today, is with the plan. I actually think the Titans, I know this is going to sound crazy. I think the Titans have approached the beginning of free agency the way a smart team would approach free agency, at least for the first 4 hours that we have to go off of. I actually think this is what smart teams do. The Titans haven't signed 8 guys. The Patriots are all in on all these different players. So they've signed Morgan Moses, and they've signed Carlton Davis, and they've signed, I think there was somebody else they've signed. They've signed like 4, Robert Spillane and Harold Landry, and the Patriots are signing anybody who will go to the Patriots. Well, you don't need to do that. The way free agency works, if you buy a player on day one of free agency, chances are you're overpaying because you've got to have that player. You can wait. And in a week, there will be a bunch of guys out there, some of whom thought they were getting paid today, who don't have contracts. And their asking price will be significantly lower than it is right now. There will be guys 3 weeks from now or a month from now as we approach the draft who don't have much of a market, who are sitting there saying, look, I'll take a $4.5 million contract. I thought I was a $9 million player, but I'll take a $4.5 million contract. And you'll be shocked at how many of those guys are equally as good as the guys you might sign today. You will be shocked. Just think of the Titans last year and all the money they spent in free agency and all the guys they added. And ask yourself this. How good was Ernest Jones? They traded for him right before the beginning of the season. They made all those moves. They added all these players. And the best guy they might have added was Ernest Jones, who they got 5 minutes before the season started. You don't have to sign everybody right away. But that doesn't mean that you have to sit on the sidelines. And this is why the Titans have approached today like a smart team. Because as is the case with the draft, sometimes there might be one good player out there at quarterback, or one good player out there at receiver, or one good player out there at corner. There might be 10 good players in a given year out there at a position. And you don't get to decide how the draft board works. You don't get to make up what the composition of the draft or free agency is. And as far as free agency was concerned, this is why we do the free agent boards. If you're looking at the stream, I have the tackles right in front of me. And I went through the numbers on Ronnie Stanley and Cam Robinson and Morgan Moses and Jedrick Wills and even Braden Smith, the right tackle in Indianapolis, who I assumed was getting released, who has not. I went through them all. The guy that stood out to me was Dan Moore. And Dan Moore stood out to me for a couple of specific reasons. And this was after Alaric Jackson was off the board. That was my number one guy. The guy I wanted was Alaric Jackson of the Rams. And I said, hey, I'd overpay for Alaric Jackson. The two guys I'd overpay for, Alaric Jackson, Sam Darnold. Once Alaric Jackson re-signed with the Rams, I had to pivot to somebody else. And I did the numbers. Ronnie Stanley had the highest PFF grade, but he's 31 years old. And Ronnie Stanley played 17 games last year, but he only played 13 games, 11 games, and 1 game over the previous 3 seasons. Cam Robinson last year played on 2 different teams, but actually had a lower PFF grade and a basically even pass block grade as Dan Moore. But he also gave up 49 hurries and was penalized 19 times. Dan Moore penalized 5 times, gave up 26 hurries. Morgan Moses with the Jets is a 34-year-old right tackle. That was an option for the Titans that I really, really, really wanted 3 years ago when they had Taylor Lewan at left tackle and they didn't have a right tackle. And while I would have accepted it, at the same time, that's a Band-Aid. That's not a long-term solution. Jedrick Wills of the Browns quit on his team last year. Not an option. And Braden Smith in Indianapolis didn't get released. So in reality, there was one true guy that made sense. Dan Moore. And when there's one guy at a premium position in free agency and you need to fill that premium position, you have to overpay. I texted Joe Rexrode this morning when they were talking about Dan Moore, and I said, Dan Moore's going to get $20 million a year. I told somebody, I thought New England, because they've got Michael Owenu at right tackle and Morgan Moses at right tackle. I said, New England's going to pay Dan Moore like $22 million a year. They're going to pay the you suck tax. That's when you have to overpay. When in order to get somebody to choose you, you have to outbid everybody else. Dan Moore is not a $21 million a year player, and I'm okay with that because I understand how free agency works. Dan Moore is will be this upcoming season 27 years old. He is right in his prime. You have signed him to a 4-year contract. My guess is it's really a 3-year contract. So you're paying for age 27 to 30. Again, right there in his prime. He is a solid left tackle. He did allow a bunch of sacks last year, which was alarming. But I read somewhere where Jeremy Fowler said a lot of people watching the tape attributed that to Russell Wilson more than him. And again, I find it hard to believe that Dan Moore can give up 12 sacks while only allowing 3 quarterback hits and 26 hurries. He was only penalized 5 times last year. That's like 1 game for Dylan Radins. But here's the most important thing. Ian, what is the number one ability in the National Football League for any player at any position?
Playing.
Availability. As Ian said, playing. Do you play? Dan Moore Jr., 17 games last year, 16 games in 2023, 17 games in 2022, 16 games in 2021. Over his career, he has played since 2021 1,000 snaps at left tackle every season. Last year, he played 1,127 snaps at left tackle. And I put, as far as a Jared contract was concerned, again, on the free agent board, I put 3 years, $60 million. That's $20 million a season. They went $21 million over 4. That's how smart teams approach free. I'm shocked because it's the Titans, in all seriousness. That's how smart teams approach free agency. Smart teams approach free agency saying, look, we're not going to draft a tackle because we're clearly going to use our first pick on Cam Ward, so we're not going to draft a tackle. And what we're going to do is we're going to buy ourselves a tackle in his prime. You're not going to get a top-end tackle on the free agent market because those guys don't get to free agency. So you're going to get an average 27-year-old tackle, and you're going to have to pay top dollar. But that's how it works. A couple of years ago, the Titans had the opportunity to do this with a guy by the name of Mike McGlinchey, who was with the San Francisco 49ers. He wanted to be here. He would have taken less money to be here instead of Denver or Chicago. But the Titans said, no, we're going to do it our way, and they signed Andre Dillard. They wanted to go with a discount left tackle. They wanted to try it their way because Mike McGlinchey was a little too expensive at $17 million a season. And even then, he would have taken less, around 15 to be here. And when the Titans did that, I thought, oh, God. And I'd watch Mike McGlinchey play right tackle for the Denver Broncos as they won more games over the last 2 years than you. And every time I tweet about Mike McGlinchey out there, Titan fans say, he's not even that good anyway. Well, no, duh, he's not that good. None of these guys are that good, or else they wouldn't be in free agency. That's how it works. Joe Burrow doesn't get to free agency. Neither does Jamar Chase. So, again, the way to approach free agency is not to do what the Titans did last year, which is we got to overpay everybody in every position. We got to spend the money. That's not what you do. What you do is you look at one or two guys and you say, hey, I will overpay for that specific player. Think of the veteran wide receivers that are out there right now, whether it's Cooper Kupp or Keenan Allen or DeAndre Hopkins or whomever. There's like 10 of these guys out there that are past their prime, reliable veteran receivers who might be dealing with some injuries here or there, but, well, you can just wait. If you want one of those guys and you don't care which one it is, you can just wait. And then when the prices go down and everybody else has a home, these guys are afraid to play the game of musical chairs, and you'll sign a guy for less money. That's fine. But if you want one specific guy, you have to overpay. And in the case of Dan Moore, he plays a premium position. He plays left tackle. That is a premium spot. He is reliable. Again, 1,000 snaps a season at left tackle for the last 4 years. He is solid. Is he great? Nope. Is he going to drive you crazy at times? Probably. But guess what you don't have to hear ever again? Remember that right tackle story? Remember the one that even J-Rob, who I thought was a good general manager, I kept saying, what are they doing at right? They don't have a right tackle. Then J-Rob leaves and comes Rand Carthon, and I said, who's playing right tackle? What are we doing here, right tackle? And then Mike Vrabel gets fired, and Brian Callahan comes in, and the day Callahan takes the job, I tell him, hey, right tackle's pretty important. It's like, yeah. And then by the middle of the year, he's like, well, you really only need one tackle. I'm like, oh, God, oh, holy crap. First day of free agency. What do the Titans do? They get a tackle. Now they got 2 tackles. You'll never have to hear the right tackle story again. So as upset as I am at the fact that the Titans clearly view Sam Darnold differently than I do, the approach to free agency, I actually like. This is what a smart team does. You don't overpay everybody, but there is a point in time where you have to compromise. There are positions on the field that you have to have. And the number one ability that you have got to count on in free agency is availability. Dan Moore's a 27-year-old left tackle who can start in the National Football League on a playoff team. He plays 1,100 snaps a season. This is what you overpay for in free agency. And in 3 years, he'll be making mid-market money anyway. Because in 2 years, the average left tackle that hits free agency will command $30 million a year. That's just how this league works. So that's how we're starting today. 615-737-1025. I actually like the Dan Moore signing. I saw it and I said, hey, this is great. Ian, did I not say last week, my dream scenario was Sam Darnold, Dan Moore, trade back, get Matthew Golden at receiver, and bomb the ball down the field.
I believe Moore was mentioned in that last week.
We had a Pittsburgh caller call in and bitch about it, saying he's worse than Andre Dillon. I can promise you he's not worse than Andre Dillon. But again, this was part of the equation. Now we see it differently on Darnold. But I will say, the approach, I like what I see so far. All right, I went long in that first segment. We'll get to your phone, 615-737-1025 here on our program. Plus, what about Sam Darnold signing somewhere else? We'll touch on that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
So you got what? J.C. Latham is going to play right. Moore's going to play left.
Skoronski.
You got Skoronski at left guard. Cushenberry at center. Look, I'll tell you what. If you're Cam Ward,
take me.
You're in there going, all right, boys.
Take me.
I mean, the Titans, as we know, they have said maybe that number 1 overall pick could be for sale to potentially the Browns or the Giants if those are teams that would want to move up. But maybe at this point they saw what they needed to see at the combine. Talking to some of these quarterbacks, they say we're good with whoever it is. We found our man.
There you go. That was the NFL Live crew today when the Titans signed Dan Moore, and Sam Darnold is a Seattle Seahawk. You know what's funny is our last segment on Friday, the 5:45 segment, I said this is the last segment that we're probably going to do talking about Sam Darnold to the Titans. At that point in time, the writing was on the wall. The Titans were telling everybody they weren't going to take Sam Darnold. Now, look, that could have been a smoke screen, but I felt like it was probably pretty obvious that it wasn't. And then as soon as we signed off the show, Geno Smith was traded from Seattle to the Vegas Raiders. And at that point in time, every single one of these insiders said, Seattle's going after Sam Darnold. And I thought, oh, crap. Oh, God. Oh, no. But I kind of felt, again, the Titans were preparing all of us, like me, preparing all of us for the idea that they wouldn't sign Sam Darnold in free agency. I think $36 million for Sam Darnold is an absolute steal. So I think a lot of people probably tuned in today, and they expected to hear me yelling and screaming and bitching and moaning about, oh, the Titans, how could they not take Sam Darnold? But I already know how they couldn't take Sam Darnold because they've already telegraphed it to everybody. They're drafting Cam Ward, period. In fact, I guarantee the Tennessee Titans will draft Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. Ian, put it down. And I thought about giving myself some leeway by saying take a quarterback, because maybe they do like Shedeur Sanders over Cam Ward. I don't know. Maybe they trade the 3 with the Giants and take Jackson Dart. I don't know. But I decided, screw it. I am telling you, they are taking Cam Ward number 1 overall. I said last week, there are 2 choices, 2 binary choices, Sam Darnold or Cam Ward. All the other guys aren't as good as Sam Darnold or Cam Ward. And this is before we knew Geno Smith was available, but I'd still rather have Cam Ward or Sam Darnold than Geno Smith. Though maybe we'll look back when they draft Cam Ward and say, gosh, he sucks. Maybe it would have been better if they had taken Geno Smith. I don't know. But again, this is what they're going to do. Like, they're going to take Cam Ward, and they know it. And so now they bought a left tackle because they're not going to draft a tackle. They bought a left tackle. It's hilarious. Like the YouTube chat and the text line, they're like, well, J.C. Latham's going to right tackle, which is fine. You got to have a right tackle. I don't know if you've ever listened to this show. Right tackle's pretty important. So you're going to have J.C. Latham at right tackle, although I wouldn't use a 7th overall pick on a right tackle. You're going to have J.C. Latham at right tackle. Dan Moore's at left tackle. You need another receiver. You can get that at 35. You need an edge rusher. You can also get that at 35. But the Titans are taking Cam Ward number 1, period. And this is where, again, I disagree with them. Because I think Sam Darnold is a better player and will be a better player long-term than Cam Ward. I also disagree because I like the idea of signing Sam Darnold for just money and then using the Cam Ward pick to get multiple players, right? I can trade it back to 3 and pick up extra draft picks. And after I get the extra draft picks, I can then use the extra draft picks on those edge rushers and receivers and other young players that I want to draft with cost-controlled structure. And you can't do that if you use the number 1 pick on Cam Ward. But that doesn't mean that what the Titans are doing is stupid. It just means we disagree. And I hope people understand the difference between the 2. There is a difference between incompetence and a difference of opinion. For instance, I have a difference of opinion when it comes, in this case, to the quarterback than they do. They don't think he's that good, because if they thought he was that good, they would have paid him $40 million and they would have been done with it, and then they could have shopped the pick. And so they don't think. So we disagree. But I understand what they're thinking. They're thinking we're going to draft Cam Ward and we're going to sign a bunch of guys in week 2, week 3 of free agency to plug holes. And then we might try to trade down from 35. We might try to pick up an extra pick here, and we might try to manufacture this there. But that is a plan. It's not my plan, but it is a plan. Here's what incompetence would be. The idea that they've been floating out that Mac Jones is going to be the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. The idea that Zach Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. And I just don't believe that's going to happen, because that's what a moron would do. And the Dan Moore signing today, that's not the move that a stupid team makes. Look, sometimes you take a shot with the information you have and it doesn't work. And I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is going into the season without a right tackle and just saying, Bill Callahan will fix it. That to me is incompetent. But taking a shot when you've got information that says, hey, this guy is a solid left tackle. Taking a shot when you've done the evaluation of Cam Ward and you think Cam Ward is all that in a bag of chips. Well, you're supposed to sign a quarterback and then draft Cam? No one's going to do that. So I disagree with the Titans. I think Sam Darnold is a better player than Cam Ward. I think he's a better player today. I think he'll be a better player tomorrow. And I think he'll be a better player 5 years from now. Maybe I'm wrong. But if the decision is as simple as I think it is, which is they're going to take Cam Ward at number 1 overall, and they're going to build the team around him, then what they've done today isn't bad at all. If they actually make Zach Wilson the starting quarterback of the Titans, then we got problems. 615-737-1025. Let's get to your reaction and your phones. Again, Dan Moore in, Sam Darnold to Seattle. What do you make of it? The Titans are drafting Cam Ward. I'm just telling you right now, before you get on, they're drafting Cam Ward. The fantasy about looping the Giants, it's over. They're using the number 1 pick. They're using it on Cam Ward. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number on the program. 615-737-1025. Join 1025-1063 The Game for an SEC watch party as we broadcast from 9 to 6 at Mellow Mushroom on Broadway on Wednesday, Assembly Food Hall on Thursday, and the Pub in the Gulch on Friday. We'll have on-site coverage of the SEC tournament brought to you by Toyota, Guinness, and thenewcumberland.com. Volunteer Hose and Gasket, and Sloan's Motorcycle ATV. For more details, visit thegamenational.com/events.
They got
shocking.
J.C. Latham and Skoronski. Why are you shocked about Dan Moore?
No, he's a good player. I knew he was going to do well, but he got to $21 million a year. Like, this is.
Other teams really wanted him, though, right?
They did. Yeah, New England. Kansas City obviously was in the market. So, but that
Leverages
I thought
everything.
he would do well. But if you're a 26-year-old tackle that started a couple years, like, you're going to get paid. There just weren't enough guys. He was really the only guy left.
There you go. That was Jeremy Fowler today saying, like, oh, my God, I can't believe how much money Dan Moore got. I texted Joe this morning when they were talking about Dan Moore Jr., and I said, you do realize Dan Moore Jr. is going to get $20 million a year. Like, he's going to get it. I mean, he's probably, if you had to ask me how much money Dan Moore is worth, just based off of, and I've done the free agent boards. I know you guys are like, they sign a guy, you run right to PFF. And so you're like, oh, here's what he's, I got all the information on all the guys. If you're looking at the stream, I've got it up here right here. I mean, Dan Moore's probably like a $14 million player, if I had to guess. And you're paying him 20. Why? Because you're the worst team in the league. And so he's not coming here to compete. He's coming here to make money. And because everybody wants the only available tackle that plays 1,000 snaps a season. Now let's go to your phones as promised. 615-737-1025. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Hendricks is going to kick us off today. Thank you for calling and thank you for waiting. Hendricks, you go ahead.
All right, a couple things. I think you're right on the overpaying, but you have to overpay because you're terrible. You're not going to win anybody over if you're battling for somebody. So you pay them $3 or $4 million more and hope that you get them. Second thing, I think we're looking too much into today's move as far as how it equates to any relation to our draft pick. You sign the left tackle, it immediately makes you better at two positions. You got a letter grade better at left tackle, and you're 3 letter grades better at right tackle now because of that move. I don't know that equates to who we're going to take in the draft. I think they're leaning towards Cam Ward, but I don't think they're stuck on that pick yet if you get a late offer. Last thing, Cards aren't back yet. Go Cats.
I mean, I think Cards are back, man. 18-2 in the ACC. We actually took, thank you for the call, Hendricks. We actually took Jack to the game on Saturday, and they won on senior night. And I think we're ranked higher than UK in the top 25 poll. I'm just saying. But I digress. So to the Cam Ward thing. So, Ian, you said Connor Hughes at SNY says the Titans are in on Russell Wilson.
Interest in Russell Wilson.
Okay, so Connor Hughes seems to never get anything right. So I have a hard time saying, Connor Hughes says, like all of a sudden it's Adam Schefter. I mean, I will piss my pants if they sign Russell Wilson. I'm not a Russell guy. To me, it's binary. It's Darnold or Cam, period. And I said this when it came to Cam, which I do have to give the Titans a little leeway because I'm saying I disagree. I think that Darnold will be better than Cam. But I said after I watched the tape study of Cam that the meetings were going to be very important for me. You sit down with Cam Ward. Does he feel like a leader? Does he feel like he's obsessed with football? Does he feel like he's got a grip on what he needs to work on? I mean, I'd love to throw up the tape with Cam Ward, even me. I'd love to throw up the tape and sit down with Cam Ward and say, okay, so in this situation against Cal, did you not see that they had 8 guys coming at the line of scrimmage and you only had 5 to pick it up, or did you not care? Because I need to see what you actually make of that. And I said, after I did the film study, I said, if he wowed me in the meetings, that would be really important. So I do think it is important when it comes to the Titans and Cam Ward that maybe they sat down with Cam Ward at the combine, loved him. Maybe the Abdul Carter injury made this very easy for them. And they said, yes, he's got the talent, but man, he's got it up here. He's got the stones. He's got the juice. This is our guy. And I wouldn't know this because, again, I've never met Cam Ward. So I don't know how I could have this or not have this or whatever. But I'm telling you, they're drafting Cam Ward. Like it is obvious. They're telegraphing. They're drafting Cam Ward. And they'll either sink or swim because of it. 615-737-1025. Let's go back to your phones. Let's see who's up next here. Mike is up next on Cam Ward. Mike, thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. Go ahead, Mike.
I can't believe we're talking about Sam Darnold or Cam Ward as our quarterbacks. It really is blowing my mind. I personally think that we should take that running back from Boise State. He will be a better playmaker than Cam Ward for our offense. Hold off a year and wait to draft a quarterback next year because we're going to have a top 3 pick again in a year. And Manning's coming out. So, but that's my take. I'm hearing you say we're going to take Cam Ward. I really
So you want to draft a running back with the number 1 overall pick?
Not the number 1 overall pick. I want us to trade back and get that guy because I feel like he's just a better overall. When you say football player, I just think he's a better playmaker, and you can build around him and then save the quarterback position for next year because I truly believe we're going to be one of the worst teams in the league again this year, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's an option. Like, I don't think that's, and I appreciate your call, I don't think that's an option around here. Like, I know that people will say, well, maybe they should. Like, who's it? Buck today said Zach Wilson, Mac Jones. Paula said Jameis Winston, Mac Jones. Jeremy Fowler said Friday, Zach Wilson. So we've heard a lot of these kind of similar names. Again, Mac Jones and Daniel Jones. And we've kind of heard the whatever. If they actually sign Zach Wilson to be the starting quarterback of the Titans, they are tanking the season. And for a lot of you, you can sit here today and say, we're not going to be any good anyway, Jared. We should tank the season. And you might be right. But that's not really how the NFL works. Because if the Titans tank the season, very rarely do teams tank the season, but when they do, they kind of have a built-in excuse to survive it. Head coach just took the job. They moved off the quarterback. Brian Callahan's fired. So he's not going to want to tank the season. If you're Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi, you just saw the Titans fire Rand Carthon after 2 years. In fact, when it comes to Rand Carthon, the Titans are basically eliminating every single, by executive order, every single action he took, they're eliminating. I mean, they're moving J.C. Latham to right tackle. Wasn't that Rand's like, oh, you'll see. You guys will see. Don't they know? They know if we win 3 games again next year, we're all fired. And if we're not fired, we're about to be fired. You don't want to do that. You want to draft Cam Ward and win 8 games next year. And then you can look and say, look at the growth of our team. Because ask yourself this question. Who would you rather be today? Would you rather be you with a high first-round draft choice? Or would you rather be Denver, who took a quarterback last year, showed some improvement, and there's at least a little optimism? And you'd rather be Denver. And Denver was never going to win the Super Bowl. Secondly, I yelled at a Browns fan about this yesterday on Sirius, and I'll yell at every Titan fan about this too. Arch Manning threw 90 passes last year. He has barely played in college, and if there's anything we know about the Mannings, it's that they stay in school. Not only that, what has Arch done in college football that makes you drop your pants to say, we need him? You're not drafting Peyton. You're not drafting Eli. What Peyton did is not what Arch will do. But we actually need to, watch Arch play before we can go all in on tanking for him. 615-737-1025, which is our phone number. Let's get back to your phone, 615-737-1025. Plus, the Titans have made another signing. And again, it, in my opinion, actually kind of fits a plan. We'll get to it next. Stillman & Company, 1025, 106 for the game.
Milton Williams to Carolina, Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, Dan Moore, 4 years, $82 million. $82 million, 50 guaranteed. $30 million in year one, $50 million in the first 2 years.
82?
The highest paid offensive tackle deal for Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans to protect the blind side of whoever's playing quarterback in Tennessee.
Okay, doesn't that make you think that they are going to go quarterback number one overall? I mean, yeah, right? Like they're like, okay, whoever we're getting, maybe Cam Ward.
There you go. That was Schefter today breaking the news that, and because Twitter was down, I was watching TV and I heard Schefter say that. Schefter had, as obnoxious as it is when he has his phone out, I actually kind of like it today. And Schefter's like, Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans. I'm sitting my tush on the couch and I'm like, what? What? But I actually thought Dan Moore was a guy to overpay for in free agency. I like Alaric Jackson more, but he re-signed with the Rams. You have to have a tackle. And J.C. Latham is a right tackle. By the way, I texted Joe Rexro this morning and I said, Dan Moore's going to get $20 million a year. And then after he signed, I said, told you. And Joe's like, Steeler fans are pointing and laughing right now. I'm like, what's that have to do with the fact that I knew he was going to get $20 million a year? Also, so much for the J.C. Latham. Who cares? Right tackle, left tackle, who gives a rat? Clearly it matters, which we'll touch on some more of that later. The Titans have signed Sebastian Joseph Day to a 1-year contract. Ian, I believe that is up to
7.5. Up to 7.55 guaranteed.
Okay. That's probably a little too rich for my blood, but it's their money, not mine. Again, small deals. You're going to see a lot of small deals from the Titans. I think you're going to see this is the one big one is the Moore deal, and I'm sure there's another big defensive move. Because the one thing the Titans are going to have to do, and it's probably going to cost them about $25 to $30 million, is by using the number one pick on Cam Ward, they're going to then have to fill a hole with a signed player that is really like using a second or third round draft choice that you're not going to be able to acquire because you're not going to get the pick. Let's go to Michael, who's up next. 615-737-1025. Let's go. I don't have a problem, though, with the Sebastian Joseph Day move. Let's go to Michael, who's up next here on the program. Michael, go ahead.
Hey, Jared. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I would really hope that you're wrong in the prediction with Cam Ward. I don't really know. I just think that we should not take him. I was really hoping for Aaron Rodgers at this point now that Sam Darnold's not available. I don't think Cam Ward is worth the first overall pick. So I would like to try to get Aaron Rodgers at this point and trade back, at least from the Giants or something like you were kind of saying, trade back a second time, get that Matthew Golden out of Texas, just something like that. But I would rather try to go Aaron Rodgers at quarterback if at all possible. And I'm with you. I hate Russell Wilson. I'm not on him at all.
Okay, so I appreciate your call. When I did the free agency boards, the options were Sam Darnold for a real contract, Aaron Rodgers on a Band-Aid. Aaron actually had a decent year last year. Russell Wilson actually had an okay year. Now, the last 4 games were a total train wreck. I mean, we bitch about Sam Darnold's last couple of games. Russell was horrendous for the last month of the year, but Russell had a solid season. There was a lot of green, which is good. A lot of green for Russell on the free agency board. When I did the free agency board for me, the guys that I thought, maybe, and then I was like, no. Justin Fields, who's signed with the Jets, Kirk Cousins, who I don't think I wrote a single green thing about, and Mac Jones. Russell, I mean, there is at least a little positive as far as Russell on the free agent board. He did make 15 starts in 23. He had 16 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year, and then 26 and 8 the year before, so he's not turning the football over. He led the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks in 2023. He actually had a decent 2023 season. It's just clearly Sean Payton must have hated him as far as Russell was concerned. But those guys, because of their age, they're nothing more than Band-Aids. And when you get the guy from Kansas City, and I don't know who's got more juice, because in Adam Schefter's tweet, which Gentry Estes pointed out, in Adam Schefter's tweet, he talked about Chad Brinker being the one that got the Dan Moore deal done. which is like, wait a minute, hold on. What about the general manager? What's he do? But when the general manager says the number one thing is to solidify the quarterback position, well, you're either going to take Cam Ward or you're going to sign Sam Darnold. It was as simple as I would like. Cleveland's in a spot where people are thinking they're going to go Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders with that number 2 pick. It doesn't matter to them. They're going to take the second guy. Well, you're not there because you have the pick. So if you're going to take a quarterback, and if you turn down Sam Darnold, it's because you're going to take a quarterback. If you're going to take a quarterback, you're going to take the best one. And the best one is Cam Ward. Let's go to Brady, who's up next here on the program. Brady, thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting on free agency day. Brady, go ahead.
What's up, Jared? I was going to say, since Bryce Young got drafted, do you think he has a future at all in the Panthers?
Thank you for your call, Brady. I guess. I don't know. He's their quarterback, and they're going with him. So who knows where they go as far as Bryce Young's concerned. It's a really, really random question. I will say this. The one thing that I do feel when I look at half the league is while you don't have a quarterback and some of these other teams, at least if you draft Cam Ward, there's the hope that you might get your quarterback, and that will help some of you sleep easy at night. That will not help me sleep easy, but that will help some of you. Because what happens is when you have a quarterback, you're just exhilarated, right? If it's Mahomes or Burrow or Allen or Lamar, you're just so obsessed and so happy. But if you don't have a quarterback, but you've got one of those mid-level guys, you're always kind of convincing yourself like, well, maybe there's a chance with Kyler that this could be the year. But you kind of know the mystery box guys at least give you the hope that maybe one of them could develop into a star. Like Atlanta thinks, hey, maybe Michael Penix could develop into a star. The problem is that 90% of the time the guys don't. Well, if you draft Cam Ward number 1 overall, you're getting the mystery box guy. Yay! I also just want to touch on this because Justin Fields to the Jets. What are they thinking? And I understand with the 7th pick that it's not like they could sit back there and say, hey, we can really go all in on waiting to take the 5th quarterback with the 7th pick in a bad quarterback draft. And I know the free agent options weren't very good, and they can't get Sam Darnold since they've already had him. So I understand. But I'm not sure that Justin Fields is better than Tyrod Taylor. And I mean that. And I know that Justin Fields isn't better than Aaron Rodgers. Why is it no matter who the general manager is or whoever the coach is, the Jets find a way to do something so incredibly stupid? 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. The Titans have their tackle in Dan Moore Jr., and they overpaid. They absolutely overpaid. And now there's some rumors that they might be in on a veteran quarterback. We'll touch on that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, and we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee, and we have breaking news. The Houston Texans are finalizing a trade to send left tackle Laramie Tunsil to the Washington Commanders, according to all the insiders. So they all got the mass text message from the agents. Apparently, the Texans are sending Tunsil to the Commanders. So I pulled up during the break because both Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter said it was for picks. So during the break, I pulled up the trade chart to see what Washington had. And I'm like, okay, Washington's got 29, which is not a premium first-round pick. They got 29, 61, 79 in the first 3 rounds. And then I'm thinking, okay, so it's probably 29 plus a second this year and a second next year, right? Nope. According to Ian Rappaport, it'll be a second rounder and a fourth rounder to the Texans, plus a third rounder this year. Houston sends back a fourth rounder and Laramie Tunsil. Wait a minute. What? So Washington sends a second, a third, and a fourth, and it gets Tunsil and a fourth. Now, it sounds, the way Ian Rappaport puts it out there, Ian, it sounds like that second rounder and fourth rounder is probably for next year, right?
The way he put third rounder this year makes it sound that way. Yeah. Let's see. There's probably an updated one here coming.
So, again, that's pick 79 this year, plus their second rounder next year, which is really a third round pick because you have to you subtract a round when you're trading a year out, and a fifth in exchange for Tunsil and a fifth. So basically, 2 third-round picks got them Laramie Tunsil. What? What am I missing here? And who's going to play left tackle for the Texans? I mean, Laramie Tunsil must have just went to the Texans and said, I want out. Or the Texans must know, like, yeah, he's fat and lazy and he's done and he's injured. He's no good anymore and we're getting out. But this one, I'm going to need some help understanding, at least on the surface. Again, who is going to play left tackle next year for the Texans? Unless they took Blake Fisher, I think, in the second round last year. They played him some at right tackle, and they've got Titus Howard. So I don't know. Maybe they put Blake Fisher at left. I don't know. This one, I do not understand. I'm trying to figure it out. You guys might know better than I would as far as what in the world both Houston and Washington. I mean, I'd make this deal if I was Washington too. I get a franchise left tackle to go with Jaden Daniels, and I get to keep my first rounder, and my second rounder next year is probably going to be late in the draft because I've got Jaden Daniels at quarterback. So apparently it's a second, third, and a fourth this year in 2025. For Laramie Tunsil, at least according to the text line. So I was a little surprised by that. Connor Hughes at SNY has reported that the Titans are interested in Russell Wilson. There have been some text messages now that Sam Darnold is off the board. And I've said, look, the decision is made. Cam Ward is going to be the next quarterback of the Titans. And there have been some texts into the text line, and there have been some questions about Jared. What about other quarterback options? PK said last week, Jameis Winston, Mac Jones. Buck tweeted out this morning, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. Jeremy Fowler at ESPN put out Zach Wilson on Friday. They're taking Cam Ward. So when it comes to this idea, again, that everybody keeps pitching me about, well, what about Russell Wilson? What about? They're not interested in Russell. They're not interested in Aaron. They're not interested. Their actions are doing all the talking. I don't care what some SNY reporter who is right 5% of the time. And I mean, I don't even know if Connor Hughes is right 5% of the time. I mean, I remember Connor Hughes, when he started talking about him, I was like, who the hell's this guy? When he was talking about Tannehill to the Jets a couple years ago, which was never going to happen. But they're not interested in Aaron. They're not interested in Russell. They're drafting Cam Ward. They're going to sign Mac Jones or they're going to sign Zach Wilson. who will be the quote-unquote bridge quarterback. They're going to sign him for 1 year and $3 million. They'll sign him, Ian, up to.
That's right.
Which is always my favorite. They'll sign him up to $4.5 million on a 1-year deal, and then they'll draft Cam Ward, and Cam Ward will start. Now, I don't like that idea because I would rather them go get like a bona fide backup quarterback that is just a true backup. You've seen those Progressive commercials where they've got Case Keenum in one of them and Josh Dobbs in one of them and Jacoby Brissett in one of them. I'm talking about that guy, like Brandon Allen, who was the backup to Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. He was the backup last year to Brock Purdy in San Francisco. He's worked with Brian Callahan. I'd sign that guy to a contract. Guy's been a backup. Guy's been a backup for a young quarterback. Guy doesn't need a rep in practice. I'd sign him, and then I would draft Cam Ward. And it's like, look, we all know Cam's the quarterback. You sign Mac Jones, there's a chance Mac Jones might be better than Cam Ward. Not a good chance, but there is a chance. Again, Ian Rappaport has updated it. A 2nd rounder and 4th rounder next year to the Texans, plus a 3rd rounder this year. Houston sends back a 4th rounder and Laramie Tunsil. What am I missing? What am I missing with what the Texans are doing here? Unless the Texans are just wanting to pour cash in somewhere else at another position and have said, screw it, let's wing it at tackle. But Laramie Tunsil, and I don't think Laramie Tunsil is the best left tackle in the NFL anymore, but Laramie Tunsil is a good left tackle. So when you're giving away Laramie Tunsil for a 2nd and 4th next year, isn't there still some juice in Laramie Tunsil? Isn't there still some tread on the tires? Don't you still have a young quarterback to protect? Aren't you still trying to compete in the AFC? You've been to the divisional round of the playoffs each of the last 2 years. Well, what's the point of pulling the plug now? What am I doing? What am I missing? Skyler says, I have no idea what the Texans are doing. They fire Bobby Slowick and they trade their left tackle. It seems like the Texans are listening to their fans. So I almost wonder if Nick Caserio, the general manager there, he's a Bill Belichick disciple. I wonder if he's like, I'm trying to get out a year early on Laramie Tunsil before it's too late. I want to get out right now. Again, who's their left tackle going to be? The top left tackle on the market, Ronnie Stanley, re-signed in Baltimore. The second best left tackle, I'd argue, is probably, I hate to say it, Dan Moore Jr. He signed with you, and apparently every Pittsburgh Steeler fan and their grandma thinks he sucks. So what, are they going to sign Cam Robinson? This is the time of year where teams do things that make me think, wait a minute, what? And this is kind of the first one right here, is this Laramie Tunsil move where I'm like, wait a minute. Somebody help me out here. I will give Washington credit. It does feel like Washington's putting their chips in the middle. I'm not sure I love the moves, like Deebo Samuel's kind of washed, and so they're going to bring him in there, and you're really going to screw with the chemistry and everything else. But it seems like the owner in Washington got a taste of success, said, I'll pay. And now the general manager comes from San Francisco where they pay, and he's like, let's do it the San Francisco way and go trade all our picks to go get good players, which is exactly what San Francisco does. Maybe it works, but again, I'm trying to figure out with the Texans. One texter says, if you're looking for reasons as to why the Texans traded Tunsil, look back through John McClain's in-game tweets from last year. He made Tunsil sound like a bum. You know, a lot of people are talking about this Dan Moore Jr. and about how the Steeler fans don't like him. And I'm sure the Steeler fans don't like him. Everybody hates their tackles unless you have Trent Williams. And even then, a lot of people still hate their tackles. Like Titan fans hated Taylor Lewan, and he was a solid left tackle when he played left tackle. Now they love him, you know, with the boys saying the Titans are going to win the AFC South when they're the worst team in the NFL. They love that stuff. But as far as when he was on the team, I mean, they booed him all the time. Fans always hate their tackles. Tackles are like referees. Ian, who's the best referee in the NFL in your opinion? The best white hat referee?
I don't know. It's a good question. They all stink.
But who is the worst?
Well, you would say Jerome Boger.
Well, he's not there anymore, but I think it's with like umpires and referees. It's like we know who the worst are. The best are the guys that you don't even notice. You're like, I don't even know who that guy is because I was paying attention to the game. I wasn't paying attention to the referee. That's the same with the offensive line. 615-737-1025. So I do have a follow-up thought on this Dan Moore thing that I can't get over. I just cannot get over. I am laughing. I am smiling. We'll get to that next, and then more of your phone. 615-737-1025. Again, the Titans have made two real moves. They've re-signed Sebastian Joseph Day, and they signed Dan Moore, the left tackle from the Steelers. And then all the other little moves, Andrew Rupchich and Morgan Cox and the whatever. Those who cares? But the two moves, Sebastian Joseph Day, I'm fine with. 1 year, $5 million guaranteed, up to $7.5 million. And then Dan Moore, they're paying $20 million a year to play left tackle. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106 for the game. Here you go. Here's Goodell. Here's Goodell.
In the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select J.C. Latham.
Oh, no! No! God!
You know what? The liquid in Jared's glass.
Man. Hey, do you believe in Hey, Jared, do you believe in Bill Callahan? Do you believe in Bill Callahan?
1,000.
Do you or do you not? But this is a question. This is a serious question. Do you believe in Bill Callahan? Jared?
Yeah, he's going to be going against some athletic edge rushers.
He plays
but
a lot.
Physically, can he do it?
Oh, God.
What happened? What?
Rand Carthon said if J.C. Latham doesn't pan out at left tackle, we have guys on our roster we're comfortable with at left tackle.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, God.
Unless it's Peter Skoronski.
Oh, God, I hate this freaking team. The best left tackle they have is their left guard. Their best right tackle is going to be their left tackle. They're all idiots. Oh, my God.
Jared? Jared?
Thank you. Oh, flashback to draft nights. Boy, those were some good times. Ian, I would argue prophetic on draft night on this program.
I don't know about that, but
prophetic. So the Titans have signed Dan Moore Jr. for $20 million plus a season from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, let's put to the side for a second the fact that all the Steeler fans apparently seem to think this guy sucks, which we'll get to that because I do want to touch on that. But here's something I cannot get over. The Titans took J.C. Latham with the 7th overall pick. And as you can tell, that night, I freaking lost it. Like, I could not believe that the Titans were taking J.C. Latham with the 7th overall pick, a guy that most people thought was the 14th, 15th, 16th best player in the draft. And that they were taking a right tackle, and they said, oh, we're going to play him at left tackle. And their inexperienced general manager and their inexperienced head coach got up there in front of everybody and said, oh, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And I was like, what? He's a right tackle. He's built like a right tackle. He played right tackle. Nick Saban had a problem at left tackle his last year at Alabama and did not move J.C. Latham over there. And everybody pushed back. Remember, Ian, when I was going over the weights of right tackles, and it was like, here are the top 5 right tackles. They averaged 330 pounds. Here's the top 5 paid left tackles. They averaged 312 pounds. And J.C. Latham's like 346. And it was like, oh, no, Jared, left tackle, right tackle doesn't make a difference. And I said, oh, God. So here's what's crazy. Chad Brinkert becomes the Titans football czar, one way or another. And again, how much say Chad Brinkert had on last year's team really does need to be discussed. I asked Chad Brinkert about it at his deposition, because Chad Brinkert was talking about this time last year how aligned he and Rand Carthon were and how on top of things they were. And just, oh, man, we're long-lost brothers now. I'll tell you, we didn't know who between them was in charge, but we knew that they were long-lost brothers and they were aligned and they saw eye to eye on everything. And I asked Chad Brinkert at his deposition, I said, how can you say that you and Rand were aligned last year, and now you're saying, hey, these are the problems with our team, and this is and Brinker's quote was, I had responsibility but not authority. This Dan Moore move between Dan Moore playing him at left tackle and flipping Latham back to right tackle, the fact that they're trying to move off of Will Levis, and the fact, again, I'm the one who reported it, I said it, and I stand by it, and the actions are obvious. Brian Callahan should not sleep well at night. Chad Brinkert did not want to keep him. Amy made him keep Brian Callahan. It's almost like Chad Brinkert, who was Rand Carthon's top lieutenant, has now ascended to the throne and has undone everything that Rand Carthon did. And that makes a lot of sense because Rand Carthon sucked. And again, the way, in my opinion, this organization was run when Rand was the general manager was by pure incompetence. Going into the draft without a starting tackle at either left tackle or right tackle. And then drafting with the 7th pick a right tackle to play left tackle. Stupid. Taking a guard with the 11th overall pick. Dumb. Trading for an injured corner. Ridiculous. And yet, wasn't Chad Brinker Rand Carthon's top lieutenant? I mean, it'd be one thing if the Titans, again, if the Titans had gotten rid of everybody, had just cleaned house, and they hired Mike Borgonzi to be general manager, and they said, Mike Borgonzi, this is your team. And Mike Borgonzi came in and undid everything that Rand Carthon did. That would make sense. That's usually what happens. I do kind of laugh because all the Titan fans look at these former John Robinson drafts and look, I mean, Caleb Farley, terrible. Radin's terrible. The Burks trade for age, terrible. Those things were bad. But these guys are going other places and signing contract extensions. Theo Jackson just signed an extension with the Vikings. Elijah Molden signed a contract with the Chargers. Like, these guys are going other places and playing. Hassan Haskins is scoring touchdowns. Malik Willis is winning games in Green Bay. And I'm like, maybe these players don't suck that bad. Maybe the greatest coach of all time, according to the media, Mike Vrabel, maybe he's not the best. But that's what happens when a new general manager comes in, is they basically undo everything the last general manager did. But I'm trying to understand, what was Chad Brinker doing last year? If Chad Brinker is so convinced that J.C. Latham is a right tackle and not a left tackle, why at no point last year, as president of football operations, did Chad Brinker not object and say, wait a minute, what are we doing? Why are we drafting a right tackle to play left tackle with the 7th overall pick? Why are we doing that? And these are the things I need answered. I'm trying to understand. So again, we're undoing everything Rand Carthon did. Like, it doesn't surprise me when a Republican president comes in and says, I'm undoing by executive order everything the Democratic president did by executive order. That doesn't surprise me. That guy campaigned on, I'm undoing everything this guy did on day one. That doesn't surprise me. What surprises me is when the guy that last year told me was Rand Carthon's long-lost brother, and they were so aligned, and he comes in right away and immediately undoes everything that Rand did. What was Brinker doing last year? Somebody help me understand this. And people with the Titans were like, well, I mean, why is Chad Brinker not qualified to be in this position? I mean, he spent all those years in Green Bay. I'm like, that's what got him the assistant general manager job. And with the assistant general manager job, he was there for whatever reason when they drafted a guard with the 11th overall pick. Again, the incompetence. So I am completely fine with the move today, like in the vacuum of moving Latham to right tackle where he should have been along. They should have never drafted J.C. Latham. If they wanted to draft J.C. Latham, they should have traded back in order to do it, especially with all those quarterbacks coming off the board. I guarantee you they could have traded back. They should have traded back. They didn't. They took a right tackle when, again, they should have taken the best player available, the tight end out of Georgia, which they didn't. So I'm in agreement with the move today. Overpay Dan Moore, stick him at left tackle, move J.C. Latham back to right tackle. I don't care when you've got to pay them both. Hopefully it doesn't matter because the cap's fake anyways. But I'm trying to understand. What was Chad Brinker's job last year? What was Chad Brinker's job the last 2 years? And then, and again, Gentry Estes is the one who pointed this out, and I think this has got to be discussed. When Adam Schefter put out the tweet that the Titans were signing Dan Moore, he wrote, ESPN sources, former Steelers left tackle Dan Moore reached an agreement today on and this is a copy and paste job for the most part. And what happens is the agents are giving Schefter and Rappaport and all the guys the info, and they'll say, great job by agent Ian Safar to get this contract done, because the agent wants other players to see, I'm the one that got Johnny Joseph $55 million. Former Steelers left tackle, this is Schefter. Former Steelers left tackle Dan Moore reached agreement today on a 4-year, $82 million deal that includes $50 million guaranteed with the Titans. The deal includes $30 million in year one and $50 million in the first 2 years. Jeff Naley and Graylin Crane of CAA negotiated the contract with the Titans. President of Football Operations Chad Brinker. The Titans now have a new left tackle to protect the blind side of whoever plays quarterback. I believe the right word there is whomever, not whoever. But they did the deal with Chad Brinker? Where was the general manager in that? I mean, I'm trying to understand it. And Gentry texted me and said, isn't it weird how he makes sure, Schefter does, to tell everyone that the Titans general manager didn't negotiate the contract? They did the deal with Brinker? Isn't that odd? Somebody help me out here. I'm trying to understand all of this. Again, I don't care about, I do care about the end result, but I care way more about kind of the thought process and the way you do business, because there are so many transactions over the course of a football season, and there are so many transactions over the tenure of a general manager or president of football operations or whatever. There are so many different transactions that you're not going to be right all the time. But if your process and your thought process is well done, then you will be more right than you are wrong. So when I see the Titans approaching the first day of free agency by highlighting one guy at a position of need and overpaying the one guy that it makes sense to overpay, I'm like, that is a good and well thought out plan. Overpaying Dan Moore Jr. is not a bad idea. Is he overpaid? Absolutely. He's probably a $13 million player, but you have to overpay in order to get somebody to come here. You suck. But while I like the thought process and I give them credit for that, I'm trying to figure out how all this works. Was Brinker not here last year when they used the 7th pick on J.C. Latham to play left? Somebody help me out here. That's all I'm asking. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, 615-737-1025. Steeler fans think Dan Moore sucks. They hate him. And there's one PFF stat that a lot of people seem to not be able to get over. We'll get to that coming up next. And why, I will tell you, it's not as big of a deal for me. I'll just be honest. This week's Nashville's best deal is Boomba's Pizza and Watch Bar. And let me say this. I am a Boomba's fan. In fact, we went to the Louisville game on Saturday. Boomba's is very big up there. And we were driving back. We had to stop in Elizabethtown for something. And they have a Boomba's right there off the exit. And I was like, oh, Boomba's is so good. And there are locations here in Spring Hill, Murfreesboro. I absolutely love Boomba's. I believe East Nashville has a location. So this week's Nashville's best deal is Boomba's Pizza and Watch Bar. Just in time for the SEC basketball tournament, score half off a $30 gift card and enjoy their award-winning pizza and handcrafted beverages. Visit them in Nashville, Spring Hill, or Murfreesboro. Visit thegamenashville.com/deals now while supplies last.
So you got what? J.C. Latham is going to play right. Moore's going to play left.
Skaronski.
You got Skaronski at left guard. Cushenberry at center. Look, I'll tell you what. If you're Cam Ward,
take me.
You're in there going, all right, boys.
Take me.
I mean, the Titans, as we know, they have said maybe that number 1 overall pick could be for sale to potentially the Browns or the Giants if those are teams that would want to move up. But maybe at this point, they saw what they needed to see at the combine. Talking to some of these quarterbacks, they say, we're good with whoever it is. We found our man.
There you go. That was ESPN today saying, okay, hold on. Let's figure this out now. So I guess Latham goes to right tackle. And, they've got Skaronski, who sucks, by the way. They've got Skaronski. And so, well, they're taking Cam Ward, which, again, I feel very confident in. So apparently Steeler fans hate Dan Moore Jr., and they hate him because my guess is he allowed a bunch of sacks last year or whatever. So I did the free agent board about a week and a half ago, and I took the offensive tackles: Ronnie Stanley, Cam Robinson, Dan Moore, Morgan Moses, Jedrick Wills, and Braden Smith in Indianapolis, who I thought was getting released. I guess I didn't do the backup left tackle in San Francisco, who apparently got a starter's deal from somewhere, but I did take those guys. And Ronnie Stanley had by far the best numbers as far as one of these tackles is concerned. The problem is he's 31 years old, and he re-signed with the Ravens. And Ronnie Stanley at 31 years old at this point in his career is not going to the Titans unless you give him like $50 million a year, and you're not going to do that. And then the other thing with Ronnie Stanley is he played 13 games last year. He played, I guess technically last year was 24. He played all 17 games last year in his free agent year. Played 13 games the year before that, 11 games the year before that, and 1 game the year before that. Cam Robinson in Minnesota allowed 8 sacks last year, 7 quarterback hits, 49 hurries, and had 19 penalties. Plus, he got suspended in 2023 for PEDs. So he's kind of more on the back 9, plus the PED suspension, plus he gave up sacks and hurries and penalties last year. Morgan Moses with the Jets is a right tackle who's 34 years old. And so that's nothing more than a 1-year Band-Aid. Jedrick Wills quit on his team in the middle of the season last year in Cleveland. He's out. And Braden Smith ended up not getting released. The only guy that made any sense to me was Dan Moore. And when I kept hearing people say, hey, Dan Moore's market's probably going to heat up a little bit, I'm like, he's going to get into the $20 million range. PFF had him at a value of $13.3 million, and I had my contract for Dan Moore at 3 years, $60 million, because I figured he's going to be a $20 million guy. You know, when Alaric Jackson, who I really liked, re-signed with the Rams at 19, I'm like, this market is going to be insane. So let's go back to the Steeler fans and how they don't like Dan Moore. According to PFF, and here's why they don't like Dan Moore. According to PFF last year, Dan Moore allowed 12 sacks, which is bad. But he allowed 12 sacks. Jeremy Fowler put out there that the sentiment was Russell Wilson was the cause for a lot of those sacks that weren't on Dan Moore. Now, maybe that's just the agent saying it. Maybe that's just whatever. But Dan Moore's previous seasons in Pittsburgh, 7 sacks, 8 sacks. So even with 12 sacks allowed last year, Dan Moore averages 8.5 sacks a season. Dan Moore played 17 games in 24, 16 games in 23, 17 games in 22, 16 games in 21. So he allows 8.5 sacks over what is basically a 17-game season. Do you know how many sacks Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a.
PT.
Do you know how many sacks PT allowed last year? In roughly half the amount of snaps, because PT was busy getting benched, he allowed 10 sacks last year. So the difference is you're going from Dan Moore's 12 sacks for the whole season to, with PT, what would have been about 20 sacks. You just deducted 8 sacks from the total. On top of it, here's why I have a hard time believing that the sack number from PFF either isn't a little wonky in and of itself, or to Fowler's point, wasn't Russell Wilson, or probably was Russell Wilson's fault. Dan Moore allowed 3 quarterback hits last year. and he allowed 26 hurries and only committed 5 penalties. Ronnie Stanley allowed more quarterback hits, 4. Cam Robinson allowed more quarterback hits, 7. I mean, again, he allowed 3 quarterback hits last year. He allowed 26 hurries. Cam Robinson allowed 49. Ronnie Stanley allowed 34. And he committed 5 penalties. Cam Robinson, 19. Ronnie Stanley, 15. 5 penalties for the season? I mean, that's great. So I'm not here to tell you that Dan Moore is anything more than an average starting left tackle. But an average starting left tackle on the free agent market from the highest bidder is worth $20 million a year. And you can tell me the Steeler fans hate him. I get it. But we are not looking at Dan Moore and comparing him to Trent Williams. We are looking at Dan Moore and comparing him to Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, a.k.a. Ian PT.
PT, baby.
This is what they're doing. They've got a starting tackle. And you want to know how I know he's a starting tackle? Because he starts for 4 years on a playoff team at left tackle. Again, according to the board, he played 1,127 snaps at left tackle last year. He played 1,000 left tackle snaps every year from 21 to 24. The Steelers made the playoffs in 2021. That year with Ben Roethlisberger when they made it on the last day of the year and then got blasted by the Chiefs in the first round. They made the playoffs in 2023 when Mason Rudolph was their starting quarterback and they... Did the Steelers make the playoffs last year? I don't think they... Yeah, they did. They lost to the Ravens. They made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Or excuse me, 3 of those 4 years, they made the playoffs. He is a starting left tackle on a playoff team. You don't get that for free, folks. So Steeler fans can bitch all they want. They've used 2 high picks on tackles. They drafted Fautanu last year. They drafted Broderick Jones the year before that. My guess is they're sticking one of those guys at left tackle and saying, all right, let's see where it goes, and let's hope it works out. But I don't care that Steeler fans don't like Dan Moore. And I say this with the understanding that, hey, maybe there's a chance that he sucks. Because I don't watch Dan Moore every week. Maybe there's a legitimate chance that he sucks. But I cannot imagine that there is any chance that he sucks more than PT. And the fact that PT has been a starting tackle for this team for the last 3 years tells you all you need to know. PT and Dillard and Ojokwu and Leroy Watson. Aren't you tired of that revolving brigade of crap bums? And that's over. You have Latham at right tackle, and I think Latham will be a good right tackle. Even though I don't like Latham at left tackle, I think Latham will be a good right tackle. And I remember when I talked one time to Floyd about the idea of moving Jack Conklin to left tackle if the Titans didn't re-sign Taylor Lewan, and Floyd looked at me and he said, Jack is a right tackle. Well, I think J.C. Latham's a right tackle. This guy's a left tackle. My guess is this guy is kind of Lewan-ish. Although 5 penalties is much better than Lewan. Maybe he sucks. But again, it's got to be much better than it was before. 615-737-1025 will hit your phones, plus some of the other moves that are happening around the league. We'll continue on that. It's Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
They got
shocking.
J.C. Latham and Skoronski. Why are you shocked about Dan Moore?
No, he's a good player. I knew he was going to do well, but he got to $21 million a year. Like, this is.
Other teams really wanted him, though, right?
They did. Yeah, New England. Kansas City obviously was in the market. So, but I thought he would do well. But if you're a 26-year-old tackle that started a couple years, like, you're going to get paid. There just weren't enough guys. He was really the only guy left.
There you go. That was Jeremy Fowler. That's like, my God, look at the money he got. Right. $20 million for a starting left tackle. That is the average price. Floyd used to say to me, he said, if you pay a number 4 receiver number 2 money, you still have a number 4 receiver. Well, again, I think Dan Moore Jr. is an average left tackle. Are we expecting him to be any better than that? Like, again, when they paid $20 million for an average starting left tackle, do you think you're getting Trent Williams? Because you're not. Do you think you're getting, I'm trying to think, I was going to say Laramie Tunsil. He just got shipped out. But do you think you're getting a high-end left tackle? No. You're not getting that guy. That's not how it works. You're not getting Christian Darrisaw. You're getting an average left tackle. And when there's a one guy on the market who's 26 years old, you have to pay. And that's why I'm not upset with this. Again, he plays 17 games a year and doesn't have some sort of crippling knee injury that L'Jarius Sneed, I guess, had. One texter says, the man gave up a league-high 12 sacks, Jared. So I pulled this up because he did, in fact, give up a league-high, according to PFF, a league-high 12 sacks. You know what's crazy? You know who is second in the NFL? There was a tie for second as far as sacks were concerned, giving them up in the NFL. Ian, you want to take a guess as to who was tied for the second most amount of sacks in the entire NFL? Dan Moore led the league in 12. Do you want to guess who was number 2?
Specifically at left tackle?
It wasn't just left tackle, but all tackle.
Was it PT?
PT was tied with Broderick Jones with 10. And Broderick Jones will be the starting left tackle of the Steelers this year. He played 1,000 snaps last year at right tackle, and he gave up 10 sacks. So 12 sacks on the left side, 10 sacks on the right side. I mean, doesn't it kind of seem that might be more of a Steeler problem? But here's the difference. The reason why Dan Moore probably led the league in sacks is because even though he was giving up sacks, he stayed at left tackle. Brandon Coleman gave up 9 sacks in Washington. Now, as we know, Washington has replaced him today with Laramie Tunsil in a big draft pick trade in order to get Tunsil from the Texans. Brandon Coleman gave up 9 sacks on 775 left tackle snaps. Dan Moore played 1,100 snaps. So that was almost a fourth more. And you're going to give up more sacks when you play that much. But I don't look at this and think, oh my God, he gave up 12 sacks. He's the worst. And the other thing too, I think the context is probably important because I did pull up like his game by game breakdown of where these sacks were coming from. And again, I don't like it. And I'm not expecting him to be a Hall of Famer, but I think he's a league average guy. Here's who the sacks were coming against, the multi-sack games. He gave up 2 sacks against Cincinnati. Hey, Ian, does Cincinnati have a good pass rush? Do they have the leading sacker in the NFL?
Although he's requested a trade.
They won't pay him, but he he gave up a sack against Philadelphia. Pretty sure they have a good pass rush. He gave up 2 sacks against Kansas City. He gave up 2 sacks against Cleveland. Hey, Ian, does Cleveland have a good pass rusher?
He just got paid, actually.
And he gave up 2 sacks against Baltimore. I started to think about it. I'm like, that division is probably pretty hard to play tackle in for whatever that's worth with the edge rushers they have. My guess is he's going to come in here and he's probably going to give up 8 sacks, 9 sacks. Again, he averages 8.5 over a 4-year career. You can live with that. There are plenty of solid players that give up sacks in the NFL. Jack Conklin gives up 7 sacks on 800 snaps. He's solid. and you know it. I think this will be okay. I understand what they did. I understand the player they picked. I understand why they picked him, and I understand why they overpaid him. I think this will be okay. 615-737-1025. There are some rumors about the Titans at the quarterback position. There is one guy who I think is going to be playing quarterback for the Tennessee Titans in 2025. We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3, the game streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game National Studios. We are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Ian, are we streaming on Twitter or not? I have no idea if Twitter's even working today.
I don't think we officially are. We have.
So we're streaming on YouTube today.
But,
so
yeah.
I have just put the I have just put the YouTube link up on Twitter, just saying, just go to YouTube to watch, whatever, make that however you want it to be. So many people today, my phone started buzzing when I was brushing my teeth today, Ian, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Sam Darnold has signed with the Seattle Seahawks, which is not surprising, given kind of the Geno trade on Friday night and how as soon as they had the Geno trade, everybody said Seattle's going to be interested in Darnold. So that wasn't surprising. The Titans' lack of interest wasn't surprising, given that PK had alerted us that they're not going to be in on Sam Darnold. And I was hoping that that was a smokescreen. In fact, I won't name names, but somebody around here ran into Chad Brinker on Saturday. And I guess they were like, yeah, I'm talking to Jerry, whatever. I said, you tell Chad Brinker, I said, go sign Sam Darnold. And the dream scenario last week laid out on this program was that the Tennessee Titans would sign Sam Darnold and they'd sign Dan Moore, the tackle from the Steelers. Now, I didn't actually think they were going to sign Dan Moore, but they were going to sign Sam Darnold and they were going to sign Dan Moore. And then they were going to trade the first overall pick back to number 3 with the Giants. They were going to pick up the Giants' first rounder next year and 35 or 34, whatever pick it is they have, 34 in the second round. Then on draft night, the Titans are going to trade back again from number 3. And they were going to take Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas. And then I'd have Ridley at one receiver position. I'd have Golden at the other receiver position. I'd have Darnold at quarterback. And I'd have Dan Moore and J.C. Latham at tackle. I'd have 2 tackles, 2 receivers, and 1 quarterback. And I'd have more picks. Because, again, I'd be trading the picks back, etc. And it seems that that dream is gone. And I don't like it, but they clearly don't believe in Sam Darnold the way I do. Which takes me to what I think is the obvious here. The rumors now at quarterback for the Titans. PK said Jameis Winston and Mac Jones last week. Woof. Jeremy Fowler said Zach Wilson on Friday. And we said, woof. Buck tweeted out this morning he was hearing Mac Jones and Zach Wilson for the Titans quarterback spot. Again, woof. Connor Hughes at SNY has tweeted out today the Titans have interest in Russell Wilson. Now, Russell didn't have a terrible season, but, I mean, again, Russell he's not only on the back 9, he's on 17. And he's so cringy. There's also been speculation that the Titans could bring back Will Levis as their starting quarterback next year. Again, woof. But I'm not really all that worked up about Mac Jones, Will Levis, Zach Wilson, Russell Wilson, because I know the Titans aren't going to use those guys as their starting quarterback for this upcoming season. Their starting quarterback is going to be Cam Ward. And I don't know what's happened. I don't know what the Titans saw. I don't know what the Titans heard when they sat down with Cam Ward at the Combine. But the reality is, the consensus around the league going into the Combine was that the Titans were not going to take a quarterback. That the Titans were going to draft Abdul Carter, and that they were going to, as Daniel Jeremiah, the lead draft analyst at NFL Network, said, they were just going to hit one on the fairway. They go to the Combine. All the talk is about trading back. All the talk is about the Giants and the Jets and the Raiders and yet they leave the Combine. In fact, in the mock drafts going into the Combine, Daniel Jeremiah had Abdul Carter at 1 and Mel Kiper Jr. had Abdul Carter at 1. And their whole things were, well, we're hearing Tennessee's not going to go quarterback. everybody left the combine, and it was like, yeah, Tennessee's taking Abdul Carter. They're not interested in Sam Darnold. They're taking Cam Ward. He's going to be the quarterback next year. Now, I have my concerns about whether or not Cam Ward's going to be the guy. I will say this, Cam Ward has talent. And Cam Ward is absolutely a first-round talent. He's got the arm talent of a first-round quarterback. He's got athleticism. He's got decent size. He doesn't have great size. He's got decent size. He is a first-round talent. But I'm also not sure he's a first overall talent. But it doesn't really matter what I think, does it? You want to know what they're going to do. I'm telling you what they're going to do. They're going to take Cam Ward. So everything that now goes forward, as far as building this team is concerned, as far as free agency is concerned, as far as what they're going to do at receiver, as far as what they're going to, we can all operate under the premise that Cam Ward's going to be the quarterback. So all these other first-round players, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, any offensive lineman that you would like to add, any receiver you'd like to, they're gone. Get to 35. That's where we're starting. They're probably, because again, I am convinced the Titans do want more draft picks, they're probably going to trade out of the 35th pick. Probably do something similar to what they did trading up a couple of years ago when they drafted Will Levis. They'll probably trade down and try to pick up a third. But as far as who's going to be quarterback, I don't care about what all the rumors are. I don't. Mac Jones is not going to be the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. Maybe Daniel Jones could be the starting quarterback, but not one person has mentioned Daniel Jones' name connected to the Titans. Not one person thought that Sam Darnold was there was no, other than TD at the very beginning saying, yeah, I'm hearing there's some interest there. Not one person has thought that the Titans were interested in any of these guys. They weren't interested in Rodgers. They're not interested. It's going to be Cam Ward. And something happened at the combine, whether it was the meeting they had with Ward, whether it was the foot injury to Abdul Carter, something happened at the combine that made up the Titans' mind. But it's going to be Cam Ward. And if this were the previous administration, I would think, well, maybe they will do something stupid, like take a guard with the 11th overall pick. But I'm going to give these guys the benefit of the doubt, and I think there is a legitimate possibility that they're going to do what most people assume, because now that Sam Darnold's off the board, it's the only thing that makes sense. The difference in my plan and the difference in the Titans' plan is I thought Sam Darnold is going to be better. I still think this. I think Sam Darnold is better than Cam Ward. I think Sam Darnold is going to be better than Cam Ward. And 4 years from now, 5 years from now, when Ward's got to be kind of breaking through and has to establish himself, I still think Darnold will be the better quarterback. That's just my opinion. They clearly think differently, or else they would have been in on Darnold. But now that the decision has been made, and now that Darnold is a Seahawk, it's obvious. Cam Ward's a quarterback. That's it. Every action the Titans are taking, I don't worry about what the rumors are. I always say this every year at this time. I say, don't listen to what somebody is telling you. Listen to what somebody does. Look at their actions. That tells you. Remember, the Titans demonized free agency when they hired Mike Borgonzi. Draft, develop, retain. We don't need to spend big in free agency. We don't need to. Rand, bad. What Rand did, spending money in free agency, bad. Now, I don't necessarily believe that. I believe the way Rand spent money on injured players, non-premium positions, that was bad. But I don't actually think spending money in free agency is bad. But again, that was how they approached it, the narrative. Free agency, bad. And they just went and signed a $13 million tackle for $20 million. So don't worry about what they say, but listen to their actions. Their actions are telling you Cam Ward's going to be the quarterback. And so everything we do from here on out, I'm not going to get too into the Russell Wilson rumor, the Zach Wilson rumor, the Mac Jones rumor, all that, because again, I know what they're going to do. They're going to take Cam Ward. And we go from there. 615-737-1025, which is the phone number. We will get to your phones. 615-737-1025. Plus, the one thing that Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi better hope that they're smarter than everybody else on. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
Who is the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans week 1?
Yeah, I'll go with the consensus of Cam Ward and stay in the consensus world. So I'm going Cam Ward week 1, Tennessee Titans.
All right, that's easy.
Which is
Cleveland.
amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I would agree with you, but Cleveland is number 2.
Yeah, and I don't feel great about this either, but they've got to do something. They're not going to go in with, the quarterback situation. Deshaun Watson's not going to I don't think he may even be healthy next year. I think they'll take a quarterback and they'll put him with Shedeur Sanders, even though it's rich with Shedeur up there, in terms of the way I break him down. But when you have no other option at that position and you just sank the amount of money you're going to sink at some point into that, you've got to go on a rookie contract to move forward with that. So I think they have to take a quarterback. So I'm going to give them Shedeur.
Oh, man. Mark Dominic, former NFL general manager, says, yeah, Tennessee's taking Cam Ward. And then he's like, all right, what about Cleveland? And he goes, well, I wouldn't take Shedeur there. Again, he said that's a little rich for him at number 2, but Cleveland has to take a quarterback. And I'm like, oh, God, if the Titans weren't convinced they were going to take Cam Ward, they could get a haul. The Giants don't have a quarterback. They're desperate. They will lie to themselves about how good Cam Ward is. You don't have to lie to yourself about how good he is. So Terry McCormick, and remember last week, Terry McCormick was part of the brigade that told us, hey, the Titans are good with Sam Darnold at their price, but they wouldn't overpay for him. And I'm like, oh, great. So the Titans went and they told every single guy. They went out there and they told every single guy at the combine, hey, we're not interested in we're not interested in Darnold unless he's at our price. And that's where they mentioned out Zach Wilson and Mac Jones and all those names. Terry McCormick an hour ago tweeted out and said, quote, there are people with the Titans who believe Cam Ward can be a franchise quarterback and is worthy of the number 1 pick. The question may be whether a handful of picks is worth moving off of number 1 and selecting Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Forget about that back end part for a second. Forget about the Carter Hunter stuff. The first part, quote, there are people with the Titans who believe Cam Ward can be a franchise quarterback and is worthy of the number 1 pick, period. That's it. He's the pick. If the Titans think he's a franchise quarterback, they're taking him number 1. And let me say this, as somebody who much rather sign Sam Darnold, as somebody who, again, I see that the analysts and the gurus, and not only the gurus and what they say, but guys in the league, according to Matt Miller, ranked all of the first-round quarterbacks and where they viewed them coming out since 2020. Caleb Williams is number 1. Trevor Lawrence is number 2. Joe Burrow is number 3. So, again, not what they've done in the league, but where they were coming out. Jaden Daniels, I believe, is 4. Cam Ward is 18 of 21, ahead of only Michael Penix, Shedeur Sanders, and Kenny Pickett. But if the Titans think he's a franchise quarterback, you take him. They're taking Ward. Again, I'm seeing the text line. Go get Aaron Rodgers. Go get this guy. Go get that guy. It's moot. It doesn't matter. Cam Ward's the starter. I think they should sign a veteran backup quarterback. Once you make the decision that Ward's the guy, then every subsequent move, in my opinion, is all about feeding off of the fact that Cam Ward's your quarterback. So they've decided Ward's going to be the quarterback. You don't need Zach Wilson to be the backup. I think you go get a veteran backup who knows he's a backup and kind of knows like, hey, you're more of a mentor translator than you are a quarterback on this team. The guy I would go get, Josh Dobbs, Brandon Allen, somebody that they've got some experience with in a similar system. Like that guy's the backup and Cam Ward's the starter. But that's what's going to happen. Again, the Titans are interested in Russell Wilson. I doubt it. I'd be shocked if they signed Russell Wilson to a contract. They're drafting Cam Ward. End of story. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com, 615-737-1025. Craig has been waiting patiently and is up next here on the program. Craig, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call. I agree. Now that we're where we're at, take Cam Ward. But 3-4 weeks outside the draft. It's a little early, I think, to be determining that that's the only thing that could happen. I don't want this to happen, but what if you did somehow take Rodgers? You're not going to pay him at the top of the heap of quarterbacks on a 1 or 2 year contract and trade down and end up getting Travis Hunter along the way. Now all of a sudden, Rodgers has somebody. I don't even like Rodgers, but I'm just saying. Listen,
if you thought Cam Ward was a franchise quarterback, Craig, why would you sign Aaron Rodgers and trade the pick back? If you think he's a franchise guy, why would you trade him?
I preface this by saying I want us to take Cam Ward. What I'm saying is 3 weeks before the draft even happens is a little early to be declaring that that's all that can happen from this point on. There's a lot that can go down, I'd say.
I don't think there. What could possibly go down? You just brought up a Fakaka situation.
3 weeks.
What could happen? What do you think the Giants could offer the Titans some package that would get them to move off of a franchise quarterback? What would be a package that would be good enough to move off of a franchise quarterback?
Well, I'm just saying it's an option that can happen, and you pick up whoever.
No,
Travis
it's
Hunter,
not. You're just throwing, Craig, thank you. You're just sitting there saying, like, well, I mean, they could do anything. They could make Jared Stillman the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans. It's over. The decision's made. And we said the entire time the decision would be made by the start of free agency. It's made. It's Cam Ward. I mean, sure. Could Kansas City call up over the next 3 weeks and offer Mahomes and the Titans? Sure. I guess that could happen, but it's not going to. And if they think Cam Ward is a franchise quarterback, and they're telling people they think Cam Ward is a franchise quarterback, they're taking Cam Ward. If you think he's a franchise guy, you take him, period. You don't trade for extra picks. Don't pass on a franchise quarterback when you don't have a franchise quarterback so you can get a couple extra picks. You don't do it. You're like, well, what about putting Aaron Rodgers in there? A 1-year Band-Aid who probably doesn't even want to come here, who you're going to have to pay a lot of money to. You bring in Aaron Rodgers here and then trade it back. You can get Travis Hunter, Jared. Travis Hunter in a first in next year's draft is not worth a franchise quarterback today. The difference is I don't think Cam Ward's a franchise quarterback. I don't see it. I see talent. And maybe he won them in the meetings, but I don't get it. According to Tom Pelissero, the Tennessee Titans are signing linebacker Cody Barton to a 3-year, $21 million contract. Again, that's Tom Pelissero, NFL Network. Ian, who the hell is Cody Barton? Have we ever heard of this guy before?
I have not.
I mean, when we talk about 3 years, $21 million, so $7 million a year, again, who knows what the actual contract is.
It says veteran linebacker per Jordan Schultz. He started 14 games a year ago for Denver and had 106 tackles.
So they just signed an inside backer for $7 million. So this guy will be wearing the green dot, I guess.
I don't know.
I mean, I assume. I don't. Who knows?
It says here the Titans have been in the linebacker market all day. Whatever that means.
The inside backer market?
It just says linebacker. I don't know about inside, but.
I understand, saying like, all right, there's one left tackle on the market. Let's go out, go get the left tackle. Let's do it. I tell you, we got to get an inside backer, Jared. Again, talk about I cannot get over this. So the Titans basically have decided everything Rand Carthon did over the last 2 years was so bad that the guy that he hired is now undoing all of it. Is that not amazing? Again, if everything that Rand touched and everything that Rand breathed on and everything that he believes in had to go, then why is Brinker still here? Like, doesn't Brinker qualify as a Rand decision? I mean, Rand hired him. Rand didn't really know him, but Rand had the same agent and probably listened to his agent, and his agent said, go get Chad. And now everything's a Rand must-go sale. They drafted Cedric Gray in the 4th round at the top of the 4th round last year. And it's like, no. Let's commit $18 million because I believe Kenneth Murray, or I think maybe $16 million, because I believe Kenneth Murray is like 7.5 in cash. Let's commit $18 million to inside backer this year. Ugh. 615-737-1025. That's the one that I don't necessarily like, but I'll learn more about this Cody Barton, and we'll get to your phones. 615-737-1025. But Cam Ward's the quarterback, folks. Get over it. I don't want Cam Ward to be the quarterback, but it is what it is. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 the game, and we'll be giving away Preds tickets later this hour, so be listening for your chance to win. And if you want to go to a Preds game, be listening to Robbie and Retro tomorrow morning for Preds Pick to Click. All you have to do is guess a Preds goal score, and if they put the puck in the back of the net, you win. So be listening tomorrow morning for the cue to call on Robbie and Retro. Stillman and Company, 1025-1063 the game.
Here's the other part too. And I know it's not foremost for people. They opened their brand new stadium in 2027. They need to make those moves that generates that excitement about opening a new stadium with their team. Opening a new stadium is exciting enough, but you got to bring something else with it, right? So these people are fired up about going to this new stadium, buying the tickets, doing all the things you want. And remember, Nashville is now one of those cities where a number of people who are outside of that region have come to settle. And what do they bring with them, Bruce? Their other allegiances.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just hit Nashville and become, hey, I'm automatically a Titans fan. You got to win over your own city. Things are different because the city has grown exponentially with a bunch of us Yankees coming in and settling there. And now it's not just, hey, the Tennessee team is here. Root for them.
There you go. That was Charles Davis on Sirius XM NFL Radio. And he's like, hey, they got to sell some tickets too. Which, even though nobody will say it, it's the truth. If I was the general manager, I'd be pushing back on the owner. I'd be like, look, Amy, we're not doing this to sell tickets. Like, I know, like, we're going to try to build a winning team, and that's how we're going to sell tickets. We're not going to try to excite people to sell tickets, and I still don't know how that would go over. So I do think that's another part of it when it comes to the Cam Ward equation. Because the reality is the consensus on Cam Ward is that he is not your typical number one overall quarterback. That your typical number one overall quarterback is Joe Burrow. It is Caleb Williams. It is Trevor Lawrence. It is Andrew Luck. It is, again, some of those cases, it's, a generational talent that people waited years for. But again, it is usually somebody that has excelled in college, which Cam had a good year last year at Miami, but was not in, the national title game or anything like that, like Vince Young at Texas. But as the gurus see it, he would be behind Bo Nix. He'd be behind J.J. McCarthy. He'd be behind Anthony Richardson. He'd be behind Mac Jones. He'd be behind pretty much everyone who's gone in the first round over the last handful of years, with the exception of Michael Penix and Kenny Pickett. But the Titans can sell Cam Ward. If they draft Cam Ward number one overall, I guarantee it, there will be people that are like, he's like Mahomes, Jared, you'll see. And again, I'm going to go with the consensus. And the consensus is Cam Ward ain't that good. And my view of Cam Ward is he's got talent. But I'm not sure that he's, again, worth the number one overall pick. One texter says, if the Titans draft Cam Ward number one overall in 2 years, they will be picking number one overall again, and there will be another regime in here. Boy, I think there's some truth to that. One texter says, bro, why you seem so mad? Am I mad? Again, I think everybody expected me to start the show today with Sam Darnold signing in Seattle, saying, oh, the Titans are so stupid. Oh, the Titans, I can't believe they this. I can't believe the Titans that. I can't. And instead, I started the show saying, look, they overpaid for a left tackle, and I get it because this is free agency. And in free agency, you overpay. And so you want the one average left tackle on the market. His value is about $13 million a year, according to PFF. You have to pay the you suck tax, and you have to pay the he's the only guy out there supply and demand tax. And you did $20.5 million. I'm fine with it. And now you'll never have to hear the right tackle story again because J.C. Latham is moving to right tackle, and now you have a left tackle and a right tackle. Do you have a great left tackle? No. Do you have a great right tackle? No. But you've got a tackle. Couple of breaking news nuggets as far as the quarterback position is concerned. According to Adam Schefter, Josh Dobbs has signed a 2-year deal with the New England Patriots. So the Patriots, their offseason was kind of like how Titan fans viewed their offseason a year ago, which was, we have $100 million in cap space, Jared. And we're going to go get T. Higgins, Jared, only to see T. Higgins get tagged. So New England has gone out there and they are just signing everybody. Or everybody that they can. Everybody that they can get that wants to show up. And for the most part, it's guys you know. Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, Josh Dobbs. I'm just waiting for NWI to go to New England. I mean, it's almost like Mike Vrabel didn't learn a single thing from his time in Tennessee. He probably just looks at it like, man, I did a great job. I know I lost 7 games in a row at the end of 2022. That wasn't my fault. I know we drafted a guard with the 11th pick in 2023, and the guard sucked. And I know I loved Andre Dillard, even though he was god-awful. And I told everyone the reason why he was so terrible in training camp was because Arden Key, the great Arden Key, is some kind of great player. But it was those hillbillies in Tennessee that screwed it up, not me. Ha, 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 ha. And most people believe that. So we're going to see. Because the only guy that Vrabel seems to be able to get to want to go to New England is the guy who played for him in Tennessee or who knows one of his assistant coaches or something like that. Robert Spillane. Those are the only guys Vrabel can get out there. Good luck, Vrabel. The other one is Pittsburgh is acquiring Kenny Pickett.
Cleveland.
So this one, Cleveland. I'm sorry. Pittsburgh on the brain for a lot of different reasons. So Kenny Pickett has been traded to the Browns. So Philly is sending Kenny Pickett and over to Cleveland for a 5th-round pick and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Do we think Kenny Pickett might be the bridge quarterback in Cleveland that Cleveland says, hey, we had to go get a quarterback. We have to go cheap. We don't want to draft Shedeur Sanders number 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Kenny Pickett and we're going to start him. Or do we think that Kenny Pickett's going there to be the backup? Ian, what do you think?
That's a good question. Backup for who?
I don't know.
I mean, they draft a quarterback. You don't want Kenny Pickett as the backup, do you? I don't know. Maybe he'd be a good backup for a rookie. I'm not sure.
But do you want, again, this is like that whole Mac Jones, Zach Wilson thing. I just don't believe that those guys are experienced enough to be the backup for a rookie. If you're going to draft Shedeur Sanders, then don't you bring back Jameis Winston to be the backup for the rookie?
You need someone who doesn't have to practice all the time. Yeah.
Brissett, that you bring in Jacoby Brissett. You bring in Josh Dobbs. He's going to be the backup to Drake May. Josh Dobbs doesn't have to take a single snap. All he has to do is sit there in the meetings with Drake May, and if Drake May doesn't understand something, or if Drake May's mad at the coach, then he tells Josh Dobbs, and Josh Dobbs goes to the coach and says, hey, coach, I think you'd be okay with doing this instead. That's what the backup quarterback does. Kenny Pickett, I think, is too young to be a backup for a young guy. Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, I think they're too young to be a backup for a young guy. Like, remember when Chad Henne was a backup for 15 years and all he did was back up young guys? That's what you need. Carson Wentz can back up a young guy. Now, I don't know if he's a good enough guy to be able to do that, but you need kind of like a good guy who understands, like, hey, my job's to back up the young guy here. And I don't think Kenny Pickett, I actually think Kenny Pickett's going to be the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns.
Maybe.
Which is wild in and of itself and what that means for the Giants. But the Giants fans are sitting there saying, Lord, please start Kenny Pickett. I also have another thought.
Some AFC South news real quick. The Colts are landing Charvarius Ward, the defensive back from the 49ers.
Isn't Charvarius Ward a free agent every year? Or is that just me?
I don't know, but he's getting a pretty good.
Oh, no. I'm getting him mixed up with Jimmy Ward.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
3 years.
Charvarius Ward, he was on the Chiefs, right?
Says former 49ers. Maybe he was also with the Chiefs. But $35 million with $20 million signing bonus. So to the Colts, AFC South.
I don't know why the Colts ever sign defensive backs, because they run this scheme where they just don't ask them to do much. He was in Kansas City. I'm actually a little surprised by But hey, more power to him. 615-737-1025. We're back to your phones next. That's 615-737-1025. Plus, again, I think Kenny Pickett is going to be the starter in Cleveland. What does that mean? And what does that mean for kind of everybody else in this draft? We'll do that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
I think what you're seeing in New England is, and I'm not mistaking, like, they got to build the offensive line and they got to get perimeter players. Mike Vrabel's saying, listen, young quarterback Drake May, I'm not going to ask you to score 30 a game for us to be a competitive football team. We're going to play good defense. We're going to run the football, and we're not going to ask you in your second year to be this absolute superstar. We're going to build a defense around you, and I think it's going to promote development at Drake May.
You see the Patriots there with Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, and then, of course, they did add Morgan Moses.
Okay, so Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, and now Josh Dobbs. When is NWI joining the New England Patriots? Chip from Mount Juliet says Vrabel loved his ex-Texans when he was here. Now it's his ex-Titans. Gover texts in and says this Vrabel thing is very much I'm going to prove I wasn't the problem. I will tell you, Mike Vrabel is convinced, and I've never talked to Vrabel about this. Not sure Vrabel would want to talk to me about this. But Mike Vrabel, by the way, did you see Paul go into the combine to go suck up to Vrabel? But again, Mike Vrabel is convinced he wasn't the problem here. Vrabel was convinced he was not culpable in anything bad that happened while he was here. He probably blames J-Rob. He probably blames Rand, Brinker, Amy, Burke, Nihill. And there probably is an acorn of truth to that. Because I think a lot of those people stink at their jobs. But I mean, if he thinks he's going to build up the Patriots with Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, and NWI, he has got something coming to him. I mean, the New England Patriots, here's what the Patriots need to do. The Patriots need to be the team that trades for Trey Hendrickson. Like an impact player who's still good, who just wants the money and good. Now you can use all your cap space. Apparently, New England was just desperate to sign DK Metcalf. And then it came out yesterday, well, DK Metcalf wants to go somewhere warm. And then he went to the Steelers. Yeah, it's really warm in Pittsburgh. Let's go back to your phones. TJ is up next on Cam Ward. Thank you for calling. Thank you for waiting. TJ, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for the pickup. I think Cam Ward would be a great pick for the Tennessee Titans based on the film. He threw 39 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. If you look at his film, he throws the best when it comes to throwing outside the numbers, improvising for making plays when the line breaks down, which is something you're going to need to do on the next level, given the athleticism of the quarterbacks these days. If you compare him, besides him and Shedeur Sanders had Travis Hunter as a wide receiver compared to Cam Ward. I don't want to disrespect the group, but they had a medium wide receiver class. Shedeur Sanders also had Jimmy Horn's younger son, and Cam Ward outperformed that group. You got a good running game in the Tennessee Titans organization to take some pressure off of him with Tony Pollard. You have a good young tight end he can look for, and you have Calvin Ridley, a veteran wide receiver. So last thing I want to say, if you want to compare that the quarterbacks coming from the SEC or different conferences, the NIL has allowed the conferences to be more competitive with the money that they can bring in. So I would say him being in the ACC wasn't really a problem. It was the defense. I felt like if his defense would have performed a little bit better, he was putting up 25, 30, 38 points a game. And that Cal game is a good game to show how he performed under pressure. He was under pressure and came back.
So I watched the Cal game on the film, and I'm going to stop you there. So you're comparing Cam Ward to Shedeur Sanders. Thank you for the call. You're comparing Cam Ward to Shedeur Sanders. I don't care about that comparison. That doesn't bother me. Cam Ward's better than Shedeur, in my opinion. The comparison is, what about Cam Ward to the rest of the league? Because that's who you're going to play. You're not going to play Shedeur Sanders on Sunday. You're going to play you're going to play Justin Herbert. So can Cam Ward be the quarterback of a team that goes out there and beats a team quarterbacked by Justin Herbert? And I'll use Kyler Murray as an example. Kyler Murray was the best quarterback in a bad quarterback class, right? Daniel Jones, Dwayne Haskins, Drew Lock. That was not a good quarterback class. Kyler Murray, by far the best of that group. But do you want Kyler Murray to be your starting quarterback? Because that's kind of when it comes to Cam, like if he's not better than the consensus thinks he'll be, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at having a quarterback that can win you some games here or there, but not ever win consistently. And if I'm using the first overall pick, I want to win consistently. That doesn't matter to me when you compare it to Shedeur Sanders. I've watched Cam Ward's tape. Cam Ward has talent. I don't think Cam has, shout it from the top type talent. And I do think that's a little bit of an issue. Again, Cam's a good player, but I'm not sure. You're saying, based on the film, and then you give me the stats. Based on the film, Cam makes some special throws that not a lot of guys can make, and he's very fluid off platform, which is very nice. But as far as, the film saying, oh, man, this guy, he is legit, I didn't see that when I watched the film. One texter says, what if Mike Borgonzi is wanting Russell Wilson to take away the Giants' leverage at quarterback, forcing them to give a king's ransom for the number 1 pick? So this would be that you sign Russell Wilson, and now the Giants don't have anybody that they can sign to play quarterback, so now they have to give you everything to move up to number 1. So then who's your quarterback going to be? And your argument would be that it's Russell Wilson. But you had a general manager that just took the job. And again, I don't know how important he is. Apparently, he didn't negotiate the Dan Moore deal, which is absolutely worth talking about. But you just had a guy take the job who said the most important thing is to solidify the quarterback position. And now, instead of taking a quarterback, you want to sign an old guy at quarterback for 1 year to then get more picks out of the Giants. That's the opposite of solidifying the quarterback position. More of your phones, 615-737-1025, which is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Day one of free agency is not in the books, but it is close enough in the books that I think we can kind of do a Titans day in review. So we'll do that coming up next. Stillman & Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Oh, I promised those Preds tickets. It's time to give them away. Be caller 5 right now at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the St. Louis Blues at Bridgestone Arena on Tuesday, March 18th. Good luck there. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios and presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. Day one is not in the books as far as free agency is concerned. It will continue. But today we now know kind of where the Titans are headed. Because the first item of business, they signed Dan Moore Jr. from the Steelers, an average left tackle. Because people are texting me, they're like, what do we think of Dan Moore, Jerry? Is Dan Moore good? Let me say this. He's not good. He's average. He's an average left tackle. And you probably hear $20.5 million a year, which is what they're going to be paying him. And you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. Why are they paying $20.5 million for an average left tackle? For a serviceable left tackle? And the answer is that's the going rate. He's probably a $14 million player. You have to pay the lack of you have to pay what we call the suck tax because you suck. And you have to pay what we call the market tax, which is he was really the only guy out there and you wanted to sign him. I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I put as far on the free agent board, I put my contract expectation for him at 3 years, $60 million. Again, they're paying him $20.5 a year on a 4-year deal. And is it really a 4-year deal? I don't know. Number two, they're moving J.C. Latham to right tackle, which I am laughing my ass off at. Not because I don't think that that's the right thing to do. I do think that that's the right thing to do as far as the Titans are concerned. But because last year when they took him in the draft and they said they were going to play him at left tackle, I said, he's a right tackle. And everybody kept saying, but Jared, Bill Callahan thinks he can play left tackle. And I trust Bill Callahan more than I trust you. And I'm like, oh, God. And I'm like, J.C. Latham is built like a right tackle. And everybody kept saying, well, that's so stupid. What's the difference between right tackle and left tackle? The difference? You have to be smaller at left tackle because you have to block for the quarterback's blind side. But Jared, Bill Callahan did it with Tyron Smith. Okay, and Tyron Smith is going to the Hall of Fame. Let's see if J.C. Latham goes to the Hall of Fame. And within 1 year, the Titans are like, yeah, no, that was stupid. He's going to play right tackle. The Titans did not sign Sam Darnold. He signed with Seattle, which means to me, they're going to draft Cam Ward. I felt like their options were binary. Darnold at a 3-4-year contract at 27 years old to say, that's our starting quarterback, or Ward to say, that's our starting quarterback. Ward is the only quarterback with a first-round grade, in my opinion, in this draft. And the Titans are already telling people they think Cam Ward's a franchise quarterback. So they're taking Cam Ward. Seattle, Vegas, and the Jets all signed quarterbacks or traded for quarterbacks or did something. So even if that was an option as far as the trade down is concerned, they're not. Cleveland traded for Kenny Pickett, which is very interesting because, again, where it stands right now, you're going to take Cam Ward. And everybody thought Cleveland, especially after they re-signed Myles Garrett yesterday and what drama that was, everybody thought Cleveland was going to go quarterback at number 2. And the Giants, who are sitting there kind of talking to Aaron Rodgers, maybe kind of talking to Russell Wilson, the Giants would be left without. But I kind of think that I guess the Browns are trading for Kenny Pickett to be their starter. A very cheap option to be their starter, but to be their starter, which means that the Giants might be able to take Shedeur Sanders with the 3rd overall pick. Boy, that'll be a disaster. The Titans signed an inside backer, Cody Barton, and Cody Barton has the exact same number 1 positive trait that Dan Moore, the left tackle, has. So I've looked up Cody Barton's info. They signed him from the Denver Broncos for a 3-year, $21 million contract. Again, who knows what the real money is. He is going to be an inside backer. And my guess is he's going to wear the green dot. But Ian, he has the exact same number 1 attribute that Dan Moore has. Do you know what that number 1 attribute is?
He plays.
He plays. He plays. Last year, Cody Barton, as far as the snaps were concerned, 1,100 snaps. So clearly, if the Titans are going to spend in free agency, their spending on day one is going to be for guys that play, not guys with injuries, not guys that, oh, yeah, maybe this could be so. No, they want people in here that can play. And I don't mean can play well, just can get their asses on the field and play. Because Dan Moore, again, you guys can bitch about the amount of sacks he gives up, but the reason that he gave up the sacks is probably because he actually got out there and played. He played 17 games this year, 16 the year before, 17 the year before that, 16 the year before that. This Cody Barton, he's kind of a Scarbini. He started 1 year in Seattle. He played 900 snaps. The next year he goes to Washington. He plays 844 snaps. Last year he played 1,100 snaps. This guy plays. So they got an inside backer to probably wear the green dot. And I do laugh at the fact that the things that Rand Carthon didn't value last year, he went into the draft without a starting tackle. The Titans on day one of free agency made sure not to repeat that mistake. And number two, we spent the entire offseason wondering who in the hell was going to wear the green dot. And I think now we know, again, day one of free agency, we know the guy that's going to wear the green dot is probably this guy. And so they've got those boxes checked. So at least there's that. And then finally, they still have needs at quarterback, although I think that will be Cam Ward. They still have a need at wide receiver, edge rusher, safety, right guard, and tight end. And also, did you see the money that Harold Landry got? Holy smokes. The money Harold, $14.5 million in New England. I would not pay Harold Landry $14.5 million. I'm shocked that Vrabel gave him that kind of money. I'm not shocked that Vrabel ended up with him. I'm shocked that Vrabel gave him that kind of money because he is nowhere near worth that. Let's go to your phones. That's kind of day one so far, where we are with the Titans in free agency. Let's go to your phones, which are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. That's 615-737-1025. Guilford is up next here on our program. Guilford, thank you for calling and waiting. You go ahead.
Thanks, Jared. Look, it's not a great QB class, and free agency for QB doesn't look great either. Look, I've heard what you said, but does it make more sense to get like a Russ or even a Matt Jones, draft the best player in Carter, even if you trade down possibly? Look, not saying they're going to do anything like be bad for a year with either of those QBs, and come back and draft a QB next year like an Arch or an Aller, et cetera. Somebody, one of those guys. We'll kind of see how it shakes out, but it just seems like a lot of pressure on a new staff to go get a guy who would be, what's being talked about at QB7 in last year's draft with the number one pick. We can get a great player like Carter. I mean, obviously I know he has a foot issue, but kind of what's your thoughts on kind of going with those two guys that kind of, maybe last you a year and then going, get somebody else? It seems like a lot of pressure on a guy that is not generational, but an okay player in Cam Ward.
So they think he is that. Like, I don't think he's that. Guilford, thank you for your call. I don't think he's that. They think he's that. They've told Terry McCormick they think he's a franchise quarterback. If you think somebody is a franchise quarterback, you take him. They're going to take him, period. Now, this idea, because I think that we've got about a month and a half before the draft, there's going to be talk about trading the pick. They're not going to trade the pick. Cam Ward is going to be the Titans quarterback next year. It's as simple as that. They've already made up their mind. So when you're like, well, what about going and signing Mac Jones? No, they're not doing that. It's going to be Cam Ward. What about trading with the Giants, Jared? They're not going to do that. It's going to be Cam Ward. Now, I think they'll go get a backup quarterback because everybody's got to have a backup, and it ain't going to be Levis. Again, well, I was going to say something Borgonzi said, but I actually have a thought on Borgonzi that I want to get to, and we'll do that next. 615-737-1025. I found this to be very peculiar, and we'll get to that coming up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106 through the game.
Milton Williams to Carolina, Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, Dan Moore, 4 years, $82 million. $82 million, 50 guaranteed. $30 million in year one, $50 million in the first 2 years.
82?
The highest paid offensive tackle deal for Dan Moore to the Tennessee Titans to protect the blind side of whoever's playing quarterback in Tennessee.
Okay, doesn't that make you think that they are going to go quarterback number one overall? I mean, yeah, right? Like they're like, okay, whoever we're getting, maybe Cam Ward.
Okay, that was Adam Schefter breaking the news. And again, the news of the day, the Titans are signing Dan Moore Jr. to play left tackle. I don't have a problem with it. Dan Moore last year for the Steelers played 1,127 snaps at left tackle. He's played 1,000 left tackle snaps every year between 2021 and 2024. Gave up 3 quarterback hits last year, 26 hurries, was penalized 5 times. Yes, he gave up 12 sacks. That's concerning. But his pass block grade was 66.9 by PFF. That's not bad. Again, it sounds like he's average. Average, but dependable in terms of the fact that, again, he plays. Good enough for me. That is better than Nicholas Petit-Frere, a.k.a. PT. Now, there is a little nugget from Shefty that certainly bothered Gentry Estes and is kind of bothering me a little bit. So Adam Schefter, when he reported the deal, that was him reporting the deal on TV. He would later tweet it out. And when Adam Schefter reported the deal, he reported it as this, quote, ESPN sources, former Steelers left tackle Dan Moore reached an agreement today on a 4-year, $82 million deal that includes $50 million guaranteed with the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans basically guaranteed the first 2 years of the deal. The deal includes $30 million in year one and $50 million in the first 2 years. Jeff Nally and Graylin Crane of CAA negotiated the contract with the Titans' president of football operations, Chad Brinker. The Titans now have a new left tackle to protect the blind side of whoever plays quarterback. So again, Jeff Nally and Graylin Crane of CAA negotiated the contract with Titans president of football operations, Chad Brinker. Now, we know that this came from Jeff Nally and Graylin Crane because, again, they wanted to make sure that Adam Schefter gave them the credit for signing that contract for Dan Moore so that other players will see that, again, Jeff Nally and Graylin Crane were the ones that did it. So if you're a tackle and you're about to be on the market and you're not sure about your agent, well, just know that Graylin Crane helped get the Dan Moore deal done. I couldn't give a rat's ass about who Dan Moore's agent is. But the part that says that they negotiated the contract with Titans president of football operations, Chad Brinker, period. Gentry texted it to me and said, isn't it weird how he makes sure to tell everyone that the Titans general manager didn't negotiate the contract? Gentry on Twitter also brought this up, which is the first place that I saw this, but he also brought this up saying, anyone else find it fascinating that Schefter went out of his way to tell everyone that Moore's contract was negotiated with Titans president of football operations, Chad Brinker, with no mention of Mike Borgonzi? Why do we have to do this every year? Why can't the Titans just have somebody be in charge and the person who's in charge is the one who makes the decisions and negotiates the contracts? I guarantee you, I'm going to ask this question. So what the hell is Mike Borgonzi doing? How important is Mike Borgonzi? And people are going to say, Jared, you don't get it. He's with the Chiefs. He's good. He's the chief executive. You'll see. I'm not doubting that. I mean, the Titans let it be known to me when they hired Mike Borgonzi that if Mike Borgonzi wanted a player that Chad Brinker didn't want, Chad Brinker was going to cede to Borgonzi's wishes. But again, if there's anything I've learned about the Titans over the years, specifically Brinker, it's I don't trust anything that they say. How can you trust Brinker when he spent the entire last year telling you how great Ran Carthon was, only to then be a part of the group that fired Ran Carthon and now is undoing everything that Ran Carthon did? Remember when they did this and Mike Florio said the reason that the Titans made this position for Chad Brinker is so they could basically just promote him without interviewing minority candidates for the Rooney Rule. I don't understand why you'd have to do that, but maybe that's part of it. When Mike Borgonzi took the job, there was a sense to me, at least, of, okay, this guy is not going to leave the Chiefs, who are going to be competing for the Super Bowl every single year. This guy is not going to leave the Chiefs and leave the job that he's at, where he'll interview for a general manager position every year until he gets one, unless he's going to go somewhere where he actually is in charge. And yet, Titans just signed a $50 million player, and the deal was negotiated by Chad Brinker with no mention of Borgonzi. And Schefter puts that out there. And then I have to wonder, does Brinker want that out there? That, yeah, I'm the one that did that. I'm the one that's in charge. Again, I'm not a Brinker fan. I don't know what Brinker thinks of me. If I was Brinker, I wouldn't like me. But I'm trying to figure out what's actually going on here. Again, you just signed a left tackle. You gave him $50 million guaranteed. You gave him $80 million. And the general manager, who the league is convinced is the top football executive, didn't negotiate the contract? Somebody help me understand this. 615-737-1025 and our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. 615-737-1025. One texter says, I've got to think that Brinker's the top scout, not the money man. Or I've got to think that Borgonzi's the top scout, not the money man. Again, to me, general manager is general manager, or at least that's the way it's supposed to be. And this is the other thing that I still am having a hard time processing. So by signing Dan Moore, the Titans are moving J.C. Latham to right tackle. If you remember on draft night, Ian, can we get the draft night cut? This was draft night. This was my reaction on draft night when they took J.C. Latham and then when they tried to say he could play left tackle. Here you go. Here's Goodell. Here's Goodell.
In the 2024 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select J.C. Latham.
Oh, no! No, God.
You know what? The liquid in Jared's glass.
Man. Hey, do you believe in Hey, Jared, do you believe in Bill Callahan? Do you believe in Bill Callahan?
1,000.
Do you or do you not? But this is a question. This is a serious question. Do you believe in Bill Callahan? Jared?
He's going to be going against some athletic edge rushers.
He plays
but
a lot.
Physically, can he do it?
Oh, God.
What happened? What?
Rand Carthon said if J.C. Latham doesn't pan out at left tackle, we have guys on our roster we're comfortable with at left tackle.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, God.
Unless it's Peter Skoronski.
Oh, God, I hate this freaking team. The best left tackle they have is their left guard. Their best right tackle is going to be their left tackle. They're all idiots. Oh, my God.
Jared? Jared?
Thank you. So, when I said they're all idiots, I'm including Chad Brinker in that because he was there, right? So last year, he was the president of football operations. He wasn't assistant GM last year. He was the president of football operations. And we don't know who was really in charge between him or Rand. But the Titans have decided that, no, it was all Rand. Rand was in charge. Brinker didn't do anything. As Brinker said, I had responsibility but not authority. If you're the president of football operations and the general manager of the team who reports to you says, I want to draft the right tackle out of Alabama and I want to play him at left tackle, you mean to tell me that the president of football operations can't get up and say, we're not doing that? So the way the Titans have made it sound was everything last year was Rand. And that was all Rand's fault, and Rand screwed it up, and that's why Rand got fired. And now Chad is overseeing Borgonzi, and Borgonzi's in charge. But the deal was negotiated by Chad for the left tackle to move Latham to right tackle to undo the mistake from last year. Do you see what I'm saying? Who's in charge? So here's what I've decided. First of all, if this team stinks And if Cam Ward doesn't end up being a franchise quarterback, I'm laying that at Brinker's feet. And Borgonzi's just going to be associated with Brinker the same way I associated Brinker with Rand. They're a package deal. And maybe Borgonzi is a sad sap. Maybe it's all about the money. Maybe Borgonzi's like, hey, I'm making $800,000 with the Chiefs, but they're offering me $3 million in Tennessee. I'll go do that. And I'll suck it up that I'm really just an assistant general manager and I'm not actually a general manager because Brinker's actually the general manager. I guess. I don't know. But I'm kind of tired of all of this. Like, who's in charge? You tell me who's in charge, and then everybody else stay out of it. Which means that undoubtedly we're going to have another issue where they're going to take Cam Ward, number one, and then when Cam Ward struggles, they'll say, well, that was a Brinker one. You can't blame Borgonzi for that. And it's going to be the same bull crap every single year. The same bull crap every year. Because Amy, for whatever reason, just won't get with the program. And you might say, Jared, why are you all worked up over an Adam Schefter? Because it's day one of free agency, and we're having the exact same problems that we've had over the last couple of years. Who the F is in charge of the Titans? I don't know. 615-737-1025. And a top Titan target, according to the insiders, is off the board. And he ain't going to the Titans. We'll get to that next on your phone. Stillman and Company, what to do with the game. Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I love Hiller. They take great care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. No one wants to deal with a plumbing, HVAC, or electrical emergency. Trust me, I hate dealing with emergencies like that. And most of the time, you don't know what it'll cost, or if it will get fixed right, or if the person coming to your home is just going to sell you something that you absolutely do not need. Well, guess what? When you call Hiller, you don't have to deal with any of that. Their experts are going to solve the problem, and they're going to solve it quickly. The price you're told is the price that you will actually pay with no hidden fees or surprises on your bill. So book online now by visiting happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call that fish truck today.
credit to him because Darnold had a really good year and changed my mind about it. But, like, did we other than, I guess, making fun of Stillman?
I mean, I don't think we spent a ton of time talking about Darnold last year.
Slandered him all off season. Well, I guess now you're right. A year behind, and everybody's just about to find out about Zach Wilson. You're about to find. If you don't know, you're going to know.
I mean, look, maybe Borgonzi sees something and he says, you know what? I like the tools he's got. He's going to be our quarterback next year.
Hey. Look, I'm not going to sit here.
That's why they get paid the big bucks.
Exactly. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I try not to watch Zach Wilson. I try not to.
We may have to.
Yes, that may be unavoidable very soon here in Nashville, Tennessee.
That was Robbie and Joe this morning. Again, Jeremy Fowler said on Friday, when it came to the Titans, they're not going to be interested in Sam Darnold, but maybe a mid-level guy like Zach Wilson, which, by the way, we have to have a discussion. What exactly is a mid-level guy? Because I don't know about you, but I don't consider Zach Wilson to be a mid-level guy. And then this morning, Buck tweeted out that he was hearing Mac Jones or Zach Wilson. Well, Zach Wilson is off the board. According to Adam Schefter, former Broncos quarterback Zach Wilson has reached an agreement on a 1-year, $6 million fully guaranteed deal that could grow to $10 million with the Miami Dolphins. So 1 year, $6 million fully guaranteed for Zach Wilson. Goodbye, Zach. Look, I never bought into this whole thing about Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Jameis Winston, these Scarbini guys that are being talked about, because it's obvious. The Titans are going to take Cam Ward. And so anybody who comes in is just going to be a backup. When it comes to Jameis Winston, a guy Paul mentioned, Jameis Winston makes sense because Jameis Winston could be the backup to Cam Ward. And Jameis has the experience to be the backup. And I wouldn't say that Jameis's play style is similar to Cam Ward's. Jameis is more from the pocket. Cam is more kind of off balance, off platform, flow of the game kind of quarterbacks. But it would make some sense to have them there. But no. Zach Wilson off the board. Mac Jones is still on the board, so that's at least something that we have to be worried about. A lot of people want to weigh in. Again, Adam Schefter, when he announced in a tweet that the Titans were signing Dan Moore, said Dan Moore's agents did the deal with Chad Brinker. I just want to know, who's in charge of the Titans? And a lot of you want to weigh in on this. Chad Brinker said that the Titans GM job was a real GM job. We knew it wasn't, and today, and that Schefter tweet is the proof. Another texter says, Brinker must have something on Amy. Another texter says, if Brinker doesn't get fired after this year, as bad as he is, I'm just going to assume that he has naughty pictures of Amy stashed away for blackmail purposes. My favorite part of all of this is that I think even the Titan fans at this point, who usually just gobble up whatever the team says or does. Again, Cam Ward, I think it was Mel Kiper, said he had a 9.8 on Caleb Williams and a 9.7 on Jaden Daniels and Drake May. And he's got Cam Ward at a 9.1. So a significantly less grade than the guys that came out last year. He had J.J. McCarthy ahead of where he has Cam Ward right now. Matt Miller at ESPN has 14 players that have a first-round grade in the 2025 draft. He does not have a first-round grade on Cam Ward. And yet, none of that seems to bother Titan fans. If the Titans were to draft Cam Ward or to really officially send the signal that they're going to draft Cam Ward, I'm telling you right now, they're going to draft Cam Ward. But if they were to send out the signal to everybody that it was going to be Cam Ward, to the point that, again, everybody was talking about it the same way everybody was talking about the Chicago Bears for sure taking Caleb Williams when they gave away Justin Fields for a bag of footballs. If that was the case, when that happens, Titan fans will eat that up. They'll be like, oh, God, he's going to be so good. Cam Ward, he's going to be the next Mahomes, Jared. They didn't like Mahomes, did they, Jared? And look at him now. That's what's going to happen. Titan fans are going to say that because they eat that stuff up. But even Titan fans, when it comes to the whole Brinker thing, I think even they're tired of it. Like on one day, it's Brinker's in charge. The next day, it's Brinker's not in charge. Today, Brinker's in charge. And I think it was Paul. And you know it's rich when it's coming from Paul. Because Paul is, the nickname that we have for him is BNN, the Brinker News Network. So when he's saying Brinker's trying to give himself a position that has the utmost authority with the least amount of culpability, there's probably some truth to that. But if you're the one negotiating the big free agent contracts, you're the GM. He's the GM, period. From now on, we're going to start referring to Mike Borgonzi as Titans assistant general manager. Titans highly paid assistant general manager Mike Borgonzi. I had somebody come up to me at the Super Bowl after the Titans had sworn up and down to me that this was a real GM job and that Mike Borgonzi was in charge. And I had somebody tell me at the Super Bowl, yeah, that's not like a real GM job, though. Chad's in charge. I was like, well, they seem to say that Borgonzi's going to be. I was like, okay. So we'll see. Look, if the Titans win a bunch of games this year, I'm not going to think that Brinker should be fired. And again, with Cam Ward, what's going to happen, even if they win 2 games, Titan fans will say, but you know what? Cam Ward showed something. Because Chicago Bear fans think Caleb Williams showed something. New England Patriot fans think Drake May showed something. So no matter what he does, they'll say, oh, no, Cam showed something. They got to build around Cam, Jared. They won 3 games this year, but Cam, he's the guy. One texter into the text line said, I'm not going to overreact to the news about the contract because we don't know. It easily could have been that Mike Borgonzi said to Chad Brinker, I want this guy, and told Chad to make it happen. We don't know, so I'm not going to speculate. Let's give it some time before we blow up. Hey, Ian, let me ask you a question. You worked with Floyd as long as I did. You think Floyd would ever have somebody else negotiate a contract for him?
No, I do not.
You think Floyd would ever have somebody negotiate a contract on his behalf that included $80 million and $50 million guaranteed?
I mean, he did like to use some people for the cap, but it's about it, I think.
He didn't even have a cap guy. The Titans have Vin Marino, who is the cap guy. He was the cap guy when he was here. So, no. If people are like, well, what if Brinker... No. If Brinker's negotiating the contract, Brinker is the GM. And Adam Schefter is reporting that Brinker negotiated the contract. To me, it's obvious that Mike Borgonzi just agreed to do this for the pay raise. I have no idea why else he'd take this job if Chad Brinker's the one calling the shots and making the decisions. And they're going to take Cam Ward. One texter goes, if they are trying to convince everyone that they think Cam Ward is a franchise quarterback to drive up trade value, then I'd say they've done a pretty good job, and you might help them get an additional first-round pick for it. Who's going to be their quarterback? You do know, you have to have somebody get under center and say, wide 80! Wide 80! Wide 80! Set up! You know that you do have to have somebody that actually takes the snap, right? And before you tell me like Paul did about Mac Jones, that's not an option. Just like PT was not an option last year at right tackle. But Jared, no, that's not an option. He sucks. So when it comes to these guys, it's like, oh, well, what about Kirk Cousins? Well, let's go to the free agent board. Let's just talk about Kirk Cousins for a second off of the free agency board, because I did do my homework on this. Kirk Cousins started 14 games last year because he was benched. Started 8 games in 2023 with a torn Achilles. Had the worst career QBR in 2024 at 50.4. 18 touchdowns, 16 interceptions last year, leading the NFL in interceptions. He had only 13 big-time throws in 14 games last year. Drake May had more. 24 turnover-worthy plays last year, led the NFL. So he had less big-time throws last year than Drake May, and he had the most turnover-worthy plays and the most interceptions. He had a 4.6% turnover-worthy play percentage. And you want to know how I know that's bad? Because at 4.6, he was the highest in the league Second was Will Levis at 4.4. He had more turnover-worthy plays last year, or at least a higher percentage, than Will freaking Levis. He also had 3 scrambles in all of last year. He can't move. So if they send this guy out there, then I'm sorry. That's not an option. There's one choice. It's Ward. He's the quarterback, period. And if they put Mac Jones out there, then they should all be fired at the end of the year. And they better not pin that on Callahan. One texter says, isn't the smart thing to do to make it seem like you're taking Ward so someone else trades up to take him? Again, even if you weren't going to take him, it doesn't matter. Like when the Giants call you, if you think he's a franchise quarterback, you're not going to answer the phone. It doesn't matter if the Giants think you're going to take it. It matters if the Giants think somebody else is going to take it. And today, I think that might have been hurt. 615-737-1025. There's a big rumor involving a former quarterback in the Titans, a veteran quarterback in the Titans, and I've got to get to this because I think it's so funny. We'll do that all next. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
Who is the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans week 1?
Yeah, I'll go with the consensus of Cam Ward and stay in the consensus world. So I'm going Cam Ward week 1, Tennessee Titans.
All right, that's easy.
Which is
Cleveland.
amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I would agree with you, but Cleveland is number 2.
Yeah, and I don't feel great about this either, but they've got to do something. They're not going to go in with, the quarterback situation. Deshaun Watson's not going to even, I don't think he may even be healthy next year. I think they'll take a quarterback and they'll put him with Shedeur Sanders, even though it's rich with Shedeur up there, in terms of the way I break him down. But when you have no other option at that position and you've just sank the amount of money you're going to sink at some point into that, you've got to go on a rookie contract to move forward with that. So I think they have to take a quarterback. So I'm going to give them Shedeur.
That was Mark Dominic, and there's a little change of the guard here because Cleveland has acquired Kenny Pickett, and we don't know. Ian, do we know if Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter in Cleveland or if they're acquiring him to be a backup?
No clue. Haven't heard or seen any speculation about that yet.
Okay, so maybe that can change. That changes the complexion of the first round and the draft value and everything else. But Mark Dominic's like, yeah, they're going to take Cam Ward. Again, they're telling you when they didn't go after Sam Darnold and they didn't go after anybody, they're telling you they're going to take Cam Ward. When the Raiders traded for Geno Smith, they told you, we don't want to sign Sam Darnold, and we don't think we're either going to draft somebody or be in position to draft somebody, and we're not trading up. We're going to go with Geno.
Longtime Browns reporter, sorry to cut you off here, Mary Kay Cabot says, Pickett is being brought in to compete. The Browns are still likely to look for a veteran bridge quarterback who can start until their rookie is ready.
So they're going to draft somebody, have Pickett, and bring in a veteran bridge quarterback?
Sounds like that's all on the table, yeah.
Okay, then I just want to get to this right off the jump because I find this to be very funny. I was going to end the show on this, but yesterday I was on Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio, and I went on at 11 yesterday. And at about 10:56, Myles Garrett signed that contract extension. So it went from Myles Garrett, I'll never play for the Browns again no matter what, to $40 million a year, count me in. And Coach Todd Haley was on the show. And I asked Coach Haley the question about the fact that Cleveland spends a boatload of money and they never win. And remember, Todd Haley was the OC in Cleveland when Hugh Jackson was the coach. And Jimmy Haslam fired both of them on the same day and made Greg Williams the coach. Haley drove into the office thinking that he was going to be the interim head coach. And instead, he got fired too. So listen to how I asked this question and listen to his reaction, in which you can tell Todd Haley knows exactly what I'm saying about Cleveland's ownership, but he won't say it. Play the cut. Coach, you were in Cleveland there for a second, and I look at the Eagles. They spend. They spend on their 2 tackles. They spend on their 2 receivers. They spend on their running back, their quarterback, their tight end, their defense, even their coaches. They spend. They win. San Francisco spends. And I know they didn't win this year, but San Francisco's been to 2 straight NFC title games. Cleveland spends at the same rate that San Francisco and Philadelphia do, and they don't win. Why is that?
Well, Philadelphia is the head of the game. There's no doubt about it. And
okay, he goes on basically, comes up with something. But you can tell Ian with that little chuckle he had right there, he knows exactly what I'm getting at, and he won't say it.
Probably so.
It's the owner. They're stupid. And so, again, this is another example. Cleveland trades for Kenny Pickett. I see that, and I'm like, wow, maybe Cleveland is saying, we think Shedeur Sanders is trash, so we know we're not getting Cam Ward because Cam Ward's going to Tennessee. We think Shedeur Sanders is trash, so let's just get Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett will be our quarterback, and he's a young-ish guy, so maybe there's something there while we try to win on defense and everything else. Again, I think the Browns are so stupid, I can't even – they should have traded Myles Garrett and hit the reset button, but they didn't. And now Mary Kay, who is as locked in as anybody is when it comes to Cleveland, she's saying they're still going to draft somebody, and they're going to sign somebody, and they're paying Deshaun, and they've acquired Kenny Pickett. Boy, that sounds stupid. The one guy, Connor Hughes at SNY in New York, which is a TV channel that has the rights to the Mets, He keeps reporting that the Titans have interest in Russell Wilson. I'm just going to say this. When it comes to Russell Wilson, I'll believe it when I see it. Like, when I see Russell Wilson has signed with the Tennessee Titans, then I'll believe that there's a chance Russell Wilson ends up on the Titans. I'm trying to figure out, why would Russell, at this point in his career, why would he come to the Titans? They have no shot at winning. He's made $1 gazillion. The Titans aren't even going to pay him a bunch of money. Why would he do that? Secondly, the idea that they're going to sign Russell and draft Cam and Russell will be the mentor to Cam, I doubt it. They just spent $50 million on a tackle. They're not going to spend $25 million on one quarterback and then $30 million, because that's how much the first pick gets, $30 million on another quarterback. So I'll believe the Russell Wilson stuff when I see it. That's it for us. We are out of here today. There will probably be more updates, more news, more free agency has started. Here we go. The Commodore Hour is next. Vandy needs to get it together. They've started stinking it up in basketball. Vandy needs to get it together. That's next. I'm going to come. You'll see y'all tomorrow, too.